Chapter 764. After a while, the barbecued meat gave off an aroma that seduced one's taste buds. Not a single detail was left out of his skillful hands. Even when it came to the seasoning process, Yun Tianyu was as strict as a textbook when it came to testing one's taste buds. The aroma of the meat, coupled with the seasoning, was fatally attractive. Muyaja watched his brother's skillful movements, with his mouth agape. Xiao Yichen watched from the side, his mouth watering. He thought with satisfaction, with such a younger brother, I won't have to worry about going hungry in the future. He felt that this younger brother of his was a treasure. There was nothing he could not do. What a genius! Just as the three of them were studying the barbecue machine, Yun Shishir's call came from not far away. Yu, come quickly. The moment Yu heard Yun Shishir's voice, he dropped his stall and ran toward Yun Shishir. Mommy, I'm coming. I'll go, too. Mu Yichen chased after him. Muyaja watched the two children's backs speechlessly as he silently scooped the food that Yu had barbecued onto a plate. Yun Shishir changed into a long bohemian dress and a sun hat as she walked barefoot to the beach. In the evening, the tide was low and the cool, moist sea breeze blew. As she strolled on the beach, the soft sand flowed through her fingers. It was unbelievably comfortable. In the basket in her hand, she picked up many sea crabs, conches, and some beautiful shells. As the tide was low, she became interested and walked along the beach to pick up some shells. She was surprised to find that, other than the beautiful shells, she could also pick up a lot of sea gorillas. She could not help feeling curious. Yu followed closely behind her. When he saw a beautiful shell buried in the sand, he bent down to pick it up. On the other hand, Xiao Yichen was unlucky. He didn't see a single crab, and the shells he picked up were all broken. He was a little dispirited. Mommy, I can't see any crabs. Where did you find them? Xiao Yichen asked curiously as he caught up with Yun Shishir. Yes, I picked it up at the beach. But don't go. Yun Shishir lowered her head and reminded him, when the tide is low and a wave hits, it's easy to be swept into the sea. Okay. Xiao Yichen nodded. All right. Yun Shishir's eyes were sharp. She found another sea crab stranded on the shore. Ah, there's another dish. I'll pick it up. Xiao Yichen immediately volunteered and bent down to pick it up. Yun Shishir said worriedly, Xiao Yichen, you have to be careful. Don't hurt your hand. The pincers of these sea crabs are very powerful. It's very painful to be pinched by them. Let me do it. Yun Shishir recalled a time when they went to a restaurant to eat. When they passed by the kitchen, a chef's hand was dripping with blood. A crab had pinched his finger, and it had almost broken. Xiao Yichen was not afraid. Mommy, it's okay. Don't worry. This sea crab is so small. Also, I'll be very careful. After he said that, he bent down and carefully pinched the two ends of the sea crab's hard shell. He pinched it up and put it into the basket with a proud smile on his face. Awesome, right? Really awesome. Yun Shishir smiled and praised him. Xiao Yichen looked at Yun Shishir's beautiful and refined smile. For a moment, he could not help but be mesmerized. He did not come back to his senses for a long time. Yun Shishir saw his dazed expression and touched her face in a daze. She thought that there was something strange on her face. Chapter 765. It's nothing. Xiao Yichen blushed and shook his head shyly. I just think that Mommy looks good when she smiles. You're such a sweet talker. Yun Shishir couldn't help but pinch his cheeks gently. She suddenly turned her head and looked around. Where's Yu? He was right beside me just now. Little Yichen panicked, as well as he looked around for traces of his father. In the end, Yun Shishir's eyes were sharp. It turned out that the little guy had run to the beach to pick up crabs. She called out helplessly, Yu, what are you doing? Yu crossed his arms and squatted by the beach. His watery eyes looked at the little crabs struggling in the sand as the waves receded. He couldn't help but feel amazed. He felt that this scene was really interesting. The little crabs were so small. They weren't even half the size of his palm. A wave came and splashed many of the little crabs onto the shore. When the wave receded, the wave swept many of the little crabs back into the waves and swallowed them back into the arms of the sea. So fun, so fun. Like Yun Shirshir, it was his first time at the beach. Before this, he had never seen what the real sea looked like. In the evening, the sunset glow covered the horizon and stretched all the way to the sea, dyeing the vast sea into an incomparably gorgeous color. At this moment, the child's natural instincts were at its peak. He was always full of curiosity towards new things. He curled up into a ball and squatted by the beach. He stared at the little crabs that were struggling in the sand with their backs to the sky. From time to time, he would kindly reach out and flip the poor little crabs over. The little crabs would follow their instincts and quickly crawl into the sea. Some of them burrowed into the sand. From afar, they looked like little worms. Yun Shirshir couldn't bear to disturb his curiosity, but she was also extremely worried. When the tide was low, the waves were very powerful. Yu was so small. She was worried that he would be swept into the sea, so she shouted, Yu, don't play by the beach. It's dangerous. What? Yu stood up. Just now, when the sea breeze blew, Yun Shirshir's voice was scattered in the sea breeze, so he didn't hear it clearly. Come back. Not at the beach. I know. I'll be right there. Yu replied as he stepped on the waves and walked towards Yun Shirshir. At this moment, a huge wave slammed against the rocks on the beach. Yu was alarmed by the huge sound of the huge wave. She couldn't help but look back and see that not far away, another wave was coming. His aura was astonishing. He quickened his pace. The waves rolled over, reaching a height of 5 feet. The huge wave hit his back, and he immediately felt as if his back was pushed by a terrifying force. He staggered and fell forward. The sand on the beach was soaked with seawater. He slipped, lost his balance, and fell to the ground. Mommy, Yun Shirshir, turned her head abruptly and saw the boy falling into the waves. Yu, she screamed, threw the basket aside, and ran toward him. Xiao Chen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran toward him. Another strong wave hit, and Yu was caught off guard and was swept into it. Chapter 766. Xiao Chen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran towards him. Another wave came crashing over, and Yu was caught off guard as he was swept into the waves. Yu was caught off guard by the sudden danger and gulped down a mouthful of seawater. His mouth was filled with bitterness. His entire body was flipped over by the waves. He didn't know how to swim, so he subconsciously flopped around in the water a few times. However, his body was sinking deeper and deeper. Seawater came from all directions and continuously entered his nostrils and ears. Yu tightly shut his eyes and mouth. The bitterness and sea gorilla taste in his mouth kept surging. He desperately paddled and tried his best to raise his head above the surface of the water. However, not long after, another wave came crashing over and he sank into the sea. He only felt that he was getting further and further away from the shore. Xiao Chen quickly ran towards the place where Yu had disappeared. However, halfway there, Mu Yaja, who had arrived at some point, pushed him aside and shouted, "Go back." When he came back to his senses, Mu Yaja had already dove into the sea. Xiao Chen was stunned. He wanted to swim and save his younger brother, but Yun Shirshir quickly ran to his side and carried him to the shore. "Mommy, what are you doing?" Your daddy has already gone. Don't go. It's too dangerous. Yun Shirshir pretended to be calm and said, Don't worry. You will be fine. After she finished speaking, she anxiously looked towards the place where you had disappeared. She felt extremely guilty. It was all her fault. It was all her fault. She was so focused on talking to Xiao Yichen that she didn't notice that Yu had run to such a dangerous place. He was so small. How dangerous would it be if a wave came crashing over? If something happened to Yu, she wouldn't be able to forgive herself. Mommy, look, it's Daddy! Xiao Yichen suddenly cried out in surprise. Yun Shirshir looked in the direction he was pointing and saw Mu Yaja carrying Yu from the sea. He was drenched. Behind him, waves came crashing down on his back. If he was an ordinary person, he would have long been swept into the sea by the waves. However, he seemed to be motionless as he waded through the sea and walked to a safe area step by step. Yun Tianyu, in his arms, was already unconscious. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen hurriedly ran over. Mu Yaja leaned over and pressed his ear against the man's chest to listen. There was still a faint heartbeat. He checked the man's breathing. It was weak. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen stood at the side and watched nervously. Daddy, how's little brother? Mu Yaja could not be bothered with him. First, he placed Yu face down and kneed his abdomen to force the fluid out of his nose. Next, he carried Yu and helped him lie flat on his back. With his hands clasped together, he performed CPR on him. Mu Yaja pressed one hand on Yu's forehead and pressed it down. His other hand lifted the boy's chin and forced him to open his mouth. He then performed a few rounds of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on him. Cough. Yu gradually regained consciousness. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Mu Yaja's handsome face in his hazy vision. He saw one hand pressing on his forehead and the other lifting his chin. When Yu opened his eyes, he saw his father's mouth on his. He screamed uncontrollably. Ah! His clear and loud voice almost shattered Mu Yaja's ears. Chapter 767. Yu pushed Mu Yaja away harshly and retreated backward. He wiped his lips harshly with one hand, as if there was something dirty on them. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. That was his first kiss. It was actually snatched away by this man. Her small, wet face was filled with disdain. Mu Yaja was bewildered by the look of disdain on his face. Why was this little guy glaring at him with such a look? He saw Yu sizing him up with a disgusted look as he wiped his lips harshly with his fingertips and spat a few times. Mu Yaja's lips twitched harshly. Did this little guy dislike the fact that her lips had touched his? Yun Shirshir and Xiao Yichen looked at each other in surprise when they saw that Yu was safe and sound. However, Yu stood up and threw himself into his mother's arms, feeling wronged. He wailed, "Woo, woo, woo. Mommy, he stole a kiss from me. He stole a kiss from me. Yu is no longer pure." Yun Shirshir's expression froze. Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, was stunned as well. Mu Yaja, in particular, was rooted to the spot. Only Yun Tianyou's cries kept echoing in his ears. Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu is no longer pure. Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu is no longer pure. Pfft. Xiao Yichen was the first to burst into laughter. Yu heard his laughter and raised his head to glare at him. Idiot! What are you laughing at? Uffed. Yun Shirshir, too, could not hold back her laughter as she covered her mouth. You looked deeply resentful. Mommy, why are you laughing, too? Mommy isn't laughing. Yun Shirshir immediately straightened her face and pretended to be solemn. However, before she could finish her sentence, she broke into laughter. He turned his head with resentment and glared at Mu Yaja. With his hands on his waist, his childish face was full of disgust. "Who told you to steal a kiss from me?" "Pervert!" A certain man, who was accused of being a pervert, twitched his face. He opened his mouth, wanting to explain something, but he did not know where to start. "What, steal a kiss?" "That was artificial respiration, okay? Artificial respiration, okay?" This little rascal must have never seen what artificial respiration was, so he mistakenly thought that he was secretly kissing him. Yu pounced into Yun's arms. She covered her mouth and was already trembling with laughter. "Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why are you laughing?" "Ha ha ha ha." Yun Shirshir could no longer hold it in after being asked such a naive question. She laughed out loud and held onto Yu's abdomen, which was twitching because she was trying so hard to hold back her laughter. She hugged Yu and laughed until they were a ball. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, could no longer hold it in and laughed unbridled. What a silly little brother. What, steal a kiss? Daddy was clearly performing artificial respiration on him and saving him. He actually said that Daddy was a pervert who stole a kiss from him. Ha ha ha. Yu was so angry that he pounced on Xiao Yichen. He held his face with both hands and ruthlessly ravaged it. "Stop laughing. Stop laughing, idiot!" Xiao Yichen still could not hold it in. Yu was so angry that he balled his little hands into fists and pounded on his chest. In Yun Shirshir's eyes, this action looked a little bashful. Xiao Yichen saw that Yu was angry and wanted to tease him as well. His hands tickled his armpits. Yu was more sensitive. Sometimes, when Yun Shirshir was in the mood, she would tickle him. He could not stand it. Chapter 768. Yu, who had a cold expression on his face, couldn't stop laughing under Xiao Yichen's tickling. Ha ha! Yu's melodious laughter drifted along with the sea breeze. The two little kids rolled around on the beach. Yu couldn't take it anymore and finally begged for mercy. "Brother, don't. Ha ha ha. It's so ticklish. Don't. Ha ha." Xiao Yichen felt that Yu was too cute when he laughed. He was much cuter than when he had a cold expression on his face. He thought about how Yu usually had a cold expression on his face, and then looked at the little guy who was tearing up from laughing while he was tickling him. It was obvious that the latter was cuter. He really liked this little brother of his. Yu was laughing so hard that he couldn't take it anymore. He kept pushing Xiao Yichen's body, but at this moment, it was as if all the strength in his hands had been sucked away. After playing around for a while, Xiao Yichen grasped all the sensitive spots on Yu's body. Yu was very ticklish. The soles of his feet, his armpits, his waist, his ears. He was extremely sensitive when he touched them. His little brother was really a delicate flower. Muyaja looked at the two little kids playing around, and his thin lips couldn't help but curve upwards. This was probably the kind of happiness that he could imagine. He had a woman he loved deeply and two adorable little kids by his side. They formed a happy family. Every single person was precious and indispensable. Whether it was Shirshir, Yu, or Xiao Yichen, none of them could be missing. Yun Shirshir stood at the side and looked at the two little kids playing around on the beach. A gratified smile appeared on her face. She looked up and suddenly met Mu Yaja's deep gaze. The two of them looked at each other for a long time and suddenly smiled knowingly. During dinner, Yu finally understood Mu Yaja's actions from Yun Shirshir. It turned out that he had fainted after he was washed into the sea. If Mu Yaja hadn't saved him in time, it would have been called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? Yu held a knife and fork in his hands and looked at Yun Shirshir strangely with his bright eyes. He didn't understand this term. What's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? It's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yun explained it to him in detail. Yu nodded his head with a look of contemplation. It turned out that not all mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was kissing, but he still felt disgusted. He could accept it if his mother gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But he couldn't. SS Little Chen thought of something and asked curiously, did Daddy give Mommy mouth-to-mouth resuscitation too? This little bun obviously wouldn't give up until he said something shocking. Yun Shirshir's face immediately turned red. Xiao Yichen's curiosity was piqued, and he wanted to know more. He obviously wanted to get to the bottom of it. I saw it today. Daddy did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation for Mommy. Is that right, Mommy? Is that called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? That's not mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You snorted. Daddy and Mommy were kissing. It was a kiss that only couples could kiss. What's that? Xiao Yichen looked at her curiously and looked back and forth between Mu Yaja and Yun Shirshir. Xiao Yichen, what Daddy and Mommy did wasn't mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and explained. Then what's it called? Xiao Yichen looked up innocently and curiously. Chapter 769. Hey, don't ask. Yun Shirshir felt a little awkward. How could she explain such things to her child in detail? She wanted to say more, but Xiao Yichen became more and more confused. A look of suspicion appeared on his face. Why can't I ask? You suddenly put down his cutlery and flicked his forehead. Idiot, Daddy and Mommy are kissing. Do you know what kissing is? Kissing, oh, I get it. Xiao Yichen slapped his forehead. I've seen it on TV before. Kissing, I get it. Yu looked at him as if he was an idiot. He felt that his brother was hopelessly stupid. Mu Yaja also looked at Xiao Yichen with disdain. There was no harm in comparing. Compared to Yu, Xiao Yichen's IQ had never been online. Everyone said that he was all brawn and no brains. Xiao Yichen could be said to be a rare military genius. He could even accurately disassemble every part of a desert eagle within 10 seconds with his eyes closed. However, he could not solve a simple arithmetic problem within 10 seconds. These two sons of his were the best of the best, especially Yu. He was so black-bellied at such a young age. Not only was he black-bellied, but he was also the ultimate black-bellied. On the surface, he was smiling, but on the inside, he was scheming against you. No one knew who he had inherited his incredible IQ and IQ. There was a saying that went, the new generation excels the old. It was obvious that Yu wanted to slap his father to death on the beach. I'm full. Yu put down his cutlery and rubbed his round belly with satisfaction. He had eaten a lot for dinner and was a little full. Xiao Yichen put down his cutlery and rubbed his round belly as well. He had eaten a lot that night. Yun Shirshir had carefully peeled a lot of crab meat for him and dipped it in sauce. It was delicious. He was greedy and ate a lot. Now he was a little full. After eating his fill, he started to feel sleepy. The two little guys were exhausted from playing in the afternoon, and after playing for so long before dinner, they felt sleepy now. Yu, in particular, yawned a few times in a row, her eyelids drooping. Yun Shirshir looked at the two little buns, pinched their cheeks, and asked, Are you sleepy? Okay. Xiao Yichen leaned back in his chair and allowed the sea breeze to caress him. He was extremely comfortable. She really wanted to fall asleep, just like that. Mommy, Yu is sleepy. Mommy will sleep with Yu, okay? Yu tugged on Yun Shirshir's sleeve and acted cute. He enjoyed listening to his mother read him bedtime stories. Falling asleep with Mommy's gentle voice was the happiest thing in the world. No, Mu Yaja was the first to stand up and express his opinion. Xiao Yichen also objected. No. This time, the father and son stood on the same side. Yun Tianyu glared at them with a gloomy face and pouted his pink lips. What? What's wrong with that? You're already 7 years old, yet you're still sleeping with mommy. Shame on you. Xiao Yichen accused. I've always slept with mommy, Yu retorted indignantly. I don't care. Anyway, I can't let mommy sleep with you. Xiao Yichen's sleepiness disappeared. With his hands on his hips, he argued with Yu. Why can't she sleep with me? If mommy doesn't sleep with me, should she sleep with you? Yu looked at him with disdain. Chapter 770. You clearly refused to admit defeat. We haven't even finished the game, so it doesn't count. Xiao Yichen said confidently. Yes, we haven't finished the game, but I have more points than you. Even if we continue, you won't be able to beat me. A game is a game. Besides, I didn't agree to anything you said. You're talking to yourself. Anyway, mommy will sleep with me. You're cheating. You won't admit defeat now that you've lost the game. This is my first time playing volleyball. I've never played volleyball before. Besides, what do you mean by winning or losing? I clearly went easy on you. If I didn't go easy on you, I would have won long ago. Yu snorted coldly, clearly unconvinced. The two little munchkins faced each other and started to argue. What do you mean you went easy on me? I was the one who went easy on you, okay? Xiao Yichen was so angry that his face turned red. If I didn't go easy on you, you wouldn't have gotten a single point. Xiao Yichen's words were like an arrow that pierced through Yu's heart. It hurt his self-esteem deeply. What do you mean by wouldn't have gotten a single point? That's what I meant. You're not good enough. How can you beat me? I'm not good at sports. I was kind enough to accompany you because you wanted to play. You said that you would sleep with mommy if you won. What kind of lousy condition is that? Yu pouted and glared at him with disdain. Mommy has been sleeping with me all this time. Humph, you're the one who wants to monopolize mommy, aren't you? He hit the nail on the head. Little Yichen's face flushed red with shyness. Stop fooling around. Mommy will sleep with you tonight. Okay? Sure was exasperated. These two little buns fought whenever they didn't like each other. Couldn't they just get along with each other? No, the two little buns said in unison. I don't want to sleep with him. Humph. Yaja raised his brows slightly. He reached out and pulled Sure into his embrace. Then you can sleep on your own. Tonight, your mommy is mine. Yu, Xiao Yichen. Yaja's thin lips opened slightly. Why? Are you not convinced? Hey, you're so childish too? Sure couldn't help but laugh. You're still competing with two kids? Yaja said, seriously, children can't be spoiled. Look at Xiao Yichen, I've never spoiled him. Xiao Yichen felt wronged. Daddy is the worst. He really didn't dare to compete with his daddy. In Xiao Yichen's heart, Yaja had always been like a god, an existence that everyone revered. I don't care. Mommy will sleep with me anyway. Yu didn't fall for Yaja's trick. He walked over and pushed Yaja to the side. He threw himself into Shure's embrace and rolled around in her embrace. Mommy, sleep with me tonight. Sleep with me tonight. If mommy doesn't sleep with me, you will be scared. This room is so big and dark. What if Yu has nightmares? Sob, sob, sob. Can mommy bear to let Yu sleep alone? No. His voice was extremely helpless. It trembled slightly and spoke endlessly of his dependence on her. Yu acted cute and coquettishly. Shure's heart immediately melted into a river of spring water. She immediately coaxed him. All right, mommy will sleep with Yu. Yu, be good. Mommy will read you a story. Then mommy won't sleep with Xiao Yichen. Okay, Sure agreed. Mommy, don't sneak away in the middle of the night. Chapter 771. Mommy is the best. Yu loves mommy the most. Yu Yu hugged Yun Shirshir's waist and rubbed his head against her chest like a coquettish kitten. Yun Shirshir's heart could not get any softer, and she had no room to refuse. Yun Tianyou's coquettishness could be said to have reached perfection. Mu Yaja and Xiao Chen were dumbfounded. Yun Shirshir carried Yu Yu in her arms, intending to return to the room to tell him a bedtime story. Yu Yu obediently let him be in her arms. His head rested on Yun Shirshir's shoulder, with his back facing her. His pair of watery eyes looked at Mu Yaja and Mu Chen with a provocative expression. "You want to fight with me?" "Humph." Yun Tianya mouthed. "Don't think that just because you tricked me and Mommy to the beach, you can take advantage of me. With me around, there's no way. Mommy belongs to me. No one can snatch her away." The father and son's faces were filled with anger. "This rascal." Mu Yaja frowned. "He's too much." Xiao Yichen clenched his fists tightly. Relying on Yun Shirshir's love for him, he was simply lawless. There was no other way, though. Yun Shirshir was most susceptible to this trick of his. His soft, coquettish voice, rubbing against her like a kitten. His adorable way of acting coquettishly left no room for resistance. This rascal, at such a young age, already knew how to manipulate people's thoughts. What a lunatic! At this moment, the capital was already in an uproar. Yan Bingqing had completely lost her power. Weibo, Tiba, forums, including all the media, the public opinion was already on Yun Shirshir's side. Various celebrities in the entertainment industry, be it A-list or C-list celebrities, all came to trample on her. Some of them were celebrities who had some old grudges with her. This was understandable. Some celebrities, who were completely unrelated, would also throw a basin of dirty water at them. There were even many unknown celebrities who rushed over to take advantage of her popularity. They used her to create hype and use her as a stepping stone. Chaos ensued. Yan Bingqing had never felt so vexed. Everyone kicks a man who is down. She finally experienced this feeling. Over the past few days, Mo Yen had been running around with the people from his studio, relying on the connections and resources he had accumulated over the years. He kept begging the higher-ups of various parties to be merciful. All the public relations accounts in the studio were blocked. Therefore, Mo Yen could only watch as Huan Yu used public opinion to completely destroy Yan Bingqing's reputation. Even though he called and begged, what Mo Yen received in the end was all kinds of termination letters. The termination letter from Huan Yu, the termination letter from the production team of The Green Apple, and the termination notice from some big fashion brands. Yan Bingqing was also in her element in the fashion industry. She had signed many fashion endorsements. Her commercials had already been filmed and broadcast on TV stations. However, they were boycotted by the public. The hashtag Yan Bingqing, get out of the entertainment industry hashtag, was also trending and had always been at the top of the trending list. Over the past few days, Yan Bingqing did not have any room to fight back in the face of Huan Yu's indiscriminate attacks. Everyone in the entertainment industry was in a state of panic. In the production team of The Green Apple, everyone knew about Yan Bingqing being blacklisted, especially those extras and staff who had bullied Yun Shirshir. All of them had lingering fears. Chapter 772. Even Yan Bingqing had been suppressed and banned by Huan Yu after offending her. That was Yan Bingqing, Huan Yu's top actress. She had a high status. Banning her was just a matter of a word. How powerful was Yun Shirshir's background to be able to do this? For a moment, everyone who had offended Yun Shirshir was frightened. However, at the same time, they felt that it was unbelievable. At the same time, They deeply realized that Yun Shishir's character was really much better than Yan Bingqing's. But regardless of anything else, if anyone had offended Yan Bingqing in the past with Yan Bingqing's character, who was vengeful and vengeful, they would definitely be punished. However, they were all safe and sound. Yun Shishir did not do anything to them. Everyone in the production team had a new understanding of Yun Shishir and a new impression of her, especially Yang Mi. She originally thought that Yun Shishir had some status in Muyaja's heart. Using this point, she tried to make use of Yun Shishir to punish Yan Bingqing. At least, she wanted to stop her from being so arrogant. However, now that Yan Bingqing had been banned from the industry, with Huan Yu suppressing her, she would not be able to climb back up for a while. Anyway, she was completely done for. It seemed that Yun Shishir had a very important position in Muyaja's heart. Yang Mi made up her mind that in the future, she could offend anyone but Yun Shishir. On the contrary, she had to maintain a good relationship with her. At the Mu residence, when Mu Wanru returned to the Mu residence, it was already evening. The servant immediately came forward and took the coat from her. Mu Wanru asked, "Where's Grandpa?" "Young madam, old master is in the study. Has he taken his medicine?" "It's not time yet. The medicine is brewing." "Okay, I'll go to the study to see Grandpa first," Mu Wanru said as she walked towards the study. In the study, Mu Sheng was engrossed in a photo in his hand. In the photo, Mu Qingcheng was standing in the garden with a bright smile on her face. Mu Sheng's gaze deepened as his withered fingers slowly caressed the photo. Deep nostalgia and sorrow surfaced in his eyes. "Qingcheng, you are so heartless. How can you bear to leave me alone?" Mu Sheng lamented, his eyes filled with grief. There was a sudden knock on the door. The old man was still immersed in his grief and did not return to his senses for a long time. Mu Wanru pushed the door open and entered the room. She saw Mu Sheng sitting by the window with his back facing her. He was engrossed in a photo in his hand. She walked over and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Startled, he whipped his head around. Seeing that it was her, he calmed down. "Wanru, you're back." "Yes, Grandpa." Mu Wanru walked to him and squatted down. Looking at the photo in his hand, she was slightly startled. She then smiled and said, "Grandpa is looking at Mommy's photo again." "Yes, I miss her." These two words, "miss her," expressed his endless longing for her. Mommy was so beautiful when she was young. Mu Wanru looked at the photo with a hint of sadness on her face. "In my memory, Mommy was always so beautiful. She didn't look like an ordinary person at all. She was as beautiful as a fairy. Yes, I still remember the first time I saw your Mommy. Her beauty made me unable to take my eyes off her." Mu Sheng sighed. As he spoke, he looked at Mu Wanru's face again. A hint of disappointment flashed across his eyes. She did not look like it. She did not look like it at all. This was what confused him the most. Chapter 773. Be it her eyebrows, eyes, nose, or mouth, the Mu Wanru before him was nothing like the Qingcheng in his memory. "Grandpa, what are you looking at?" Mu Wanru could not help touching her face, thinking that there was something strange on it. He answered truthfully, "I'm just looking to see if there are any similarities between you and your mother." Mu Wanru was startled. Her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly forced a smile. "Don't we look alike?" "How can that be? When I was young, everyone said that I look like my mother." "You don't." He slowly closed his eyes. Mu Qingqing's face and voice appeared clearly in his mind. Whether it was her features or her voice, even after 20 years, he still had a deep impression of her. Mu Qingqing was the most indelible joy in his memory, but also the most indelible pain. Her death was a huge blow to him. He was unable to recover from the setback and was bedridden for a long time, unable to recover from the pain of losing his beloved daughter. The smile on Mu Wanru's face stiffened. "Grandpa, do you still remember how my mother looks like?" "Of course, I remember. I can't forget her face and voice." Mu Sheng sighed. Outside, a servant gently knocked on the door. "Master, the medicine is ready." Mu Wanru raised her voice at once. "Come in." As soon as she said that, the servant entered the study with the medicinal soup. He turned his face away and said, "Take the medicine away. It smells awful." The servant smiled stiffly and respectfully said, "Master, this medicine can't be stopped. Drink it. I told you to take it away. Didn't you hear me?" He suddenly slammed the table in a fit of rage. His voice shook the entire study room. The servant was so frightened that her legs almost gave way, and she knelt down. Mu Wanru said, "All right, you can leave." "Young madam, that medicine—" "All right, I'll persuade Grandpa to drink it. You can leave first, lest he gets angry." Mu Wanru waved her hand. The servant respectfully retreated and closed the door. Mu Sheng turned his head to look out of the window, but his eyes gradually became empty. "Wanru, take the medicine away. I'm not drinking it." "Grandpa, you're throwing a tantrum again. Although this medicine smells bitter, it is good medicine that tastes bitter and cures illness. Drinking it will be good for your body." Mu Wanru walked to his side and gently placed her hand on the back of his hand, patiently consoling him. The old man stubbornly retorted, "What's in it for me?" How many years had he been drinking this medicine? Yet his body was still like this. It couldn't be cured. Let it be. Mu Wanru laughed helplessly and said a few words of coaxing. "How can you say that? Grandpa, this medicine is good for your body after all. Let me feed you, okay?" Mu Sheng looked out of the window. He did not say anything, but he did not reject her either. Mu Wanru then stood up and walked behind him. While he was looking out of the window, she secretly took out a small packet of craft paper from her pocket. She carefully tore a small hole in the craft paper and gently sprinkled the white powder into the medicine bowl. She stirred it evenly with a spoon. It was colorless and tasteless. Mu Lianjue's words echoed in her ears. "Don't be fooled by that old man's deteriorating body. I'm afraid he doesn't have many years left to live. Still, whether this old thing is dead or alive, he still holds the power in his hands. With him around, the Mu family's morale is unstable. Only by getting rid of him can I carry out my grand plan." Chapter 774. The old man's gaze remained fixed outside the window as if he were in a trance. His weathered face resembled a withered and decaying branch. His eyes were like dead ashes, devoid of any vigor. He was probably really old. It was as if he would die the next moment. Mu Wanru guessed that, given his situation, he would only have a few more years to live before the candle of life was extinguished. There were still good medicines to cure a person's illness. Alas, there was no cure for his illness. Mu Wanru pursed her lips tightly. With trembling hands, she picked up the medicine bowl and took a deep breath before walking to the old man. Sodium nitrite, a slow-acting poison. Mu Lianjue had ordered her to add 0.1 grams of it to the old man's medicine bowl every day. It would not be fatal immediately, but long-term consumption would lead to death within a month. As long as the old man was alive, Mu Lianjue would not be able to execute his plan with power in his hands. Hence, her priority was to poison the old man to death. This old man, who treated her as his own and loved her dearly, whom she had always called Grandpa. There was still a shred of conscience in her heart that was struggling. Mu Wanru had the urge to smash the medicine bowl on the floor several times. It was not that she did not have feelings for the old man. If he had not brought her back to the Mu family and doted on her like a princess, she would not even know how miserable she would have been in this life. She was the one who had lied to him about everything. She was clearly not Mu Qingqing's daughter, yet she had shamelessly possessed everything. Be it food or clothing, she had not skimped on anything Mu Yaja had. In fact, she had received more love from him than Mu Yaja. Without a doubt, the old man was the only person in the world who trusted and loved her unconditionally. 15 years of feelings could not win against benefits. After all, Mu Wanru's hands could not help but tremble. She kept weighing the pros and cons in her heart, but she could not make up her mind. A human's heart was made of flesh. She was not a cold person, after all. Every time she thought of how much the old man doted on her, and how she had poisoned her closest kin, the bowl of medicine in his hand seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. Mu Wanru hesitated and put the bowl back on the table. She took a deep breath, but she couldn't calm her thundering heartbeat. Mu Lianjue's cold and mellow voice seemed to threaten her. How can I carry out my grand plan if that old fart doesn't die? If he doesn't die, you won't be able to keep your position either. If you don't dare to make a move because of his love for you, what will he think when your identity is exposed sooner or later? The adopted daughter that he painstakingly raised and doted on for 15 years turned out to be a fake. Guess what will happen when he flies into a rage out of shame? He will definitely kill you. Mu Wanru was suddenly frightened. Her eyes widened, and her entire body trembled uncontrollably due to extreme fear. If Mu Sheng knew that her identity was fake, that she was not Mu Qingqing's biological daughter, and that she had been using this identity for 15 years, would he fly into a rage out of humiliation and really kill them all? No way. She didn't want to die. Don't think that Mu Sheng is old now. When he was younger, he was a ruthless figure in the business and political world. How much bloodshed did he cause? Mu Lianjue's frightening words still echoed in her ears. Chapter 775. She tried her best to quell the conflict in her heart, as well as her deep fear of the old man, as she slowly walked up to him. Grandpa, the medicine is almost cold. It won't be as effective once it's cold. Shall I feed it to you while it's hot? Mu Wanru asked as she squatted beside him and stirred the medicine with a spoon. He nodded lightly, but his mind seemed to be elsewhere as he did not look at her. He often looked out of the window in a daze, and his gaze was always on the Mu family's back garden. Rumor had it that the Mu residence's back garden was meticulously taken care of by Mu Qingqing. She loved flowers, especially Chinese roses. Hence, the Mu residence's back garden was once filled with colorful blossoms. From afar, it was unbelievably beautiful. Mu Qingqing loved to trim the flowers in the back garden. In the afternoon, she would sit on the swing leisurely. Ever since she passed away, the back garden had been barren for a long time. The Chinese roses she planted had withered and rotted due to neglect. The servants wanted to cut the flowers and replant them, but the old man flew into a rage and forbade anyone from entering the back garden, let alone touching an inch of the land there. The back garden of the Mu residence had once become a forbidden area. No one was allowed to enter. The petals withered and fell to the ground. The back garden had been barren for several seasons. Finally, the old man ordered people to take care of it again, but he did not let them plant any more Chinese roses. He was afraid that he would be reminded of the past. Grandpa, come. Mu Wanru scooped up the medicine and fed it to him. He slowly opened his mouth and swallowed the medicine. His eyes, however, were still looking out of the window with sorrow and trepidation. Suddenly, A line of tears overflowed from his eyes and rolled down his cheeks. They dripped into the medicine bowl with a plop. Silence reigned. Mu Wanru saw his teary eyes and stood up helplessly. She carefully asked, "Grandpa, what's wrong?" The old man remained expressionless and did not say a word. No one knew that today was the anniversary of Mu Qingqing's death. On this day, he would sit in the study room and quietly admire the scenery in the back garden. Today, however, the Chinese roses were no longer in full bloom. On the swing, the carefree figure could no longer be seen. Mu Wanru did not understand why he suddenly cried. She only lowered her head in fear and continued to feed him the medicine until there was not a single drop left in the bowl. The Kingdom of Love is a peaceful and prosperous country. Every day there is singing and dancing, praising and thanking the officials. The king is also a righteous person. One day, the king brought his most beloved daughter, the 5-year-old Love, out on an inspection tour. Because Love was kind-hearted, she treated the maids like her own family. In order not to be discovered, the king only brought 2 guards with him. On the bed, Yun Shirshir held a book of fairy tales in her hands. She flipped to a story titled The Real and Fake Princess and found it interesting. So she read it to Yun Tianyu. Yun Tianyu leaned into her embrace. Amid her gentle and soft voice, his eyelids drooped and his eyes drooped sleepily. Suddenly, the bedroom door was slowly pushed open. Xiao Chen peeked inside. He had just taken a bath and changed into his pajamas. He tossed and turned in bed, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not fall asleep. The spacious room only felt cold and cheerless. Chapter 776. Pushing the door open, he saw Yun Shirshir reading a story to Yu Yu. Yu Yu's eyes were closed, seemingly asleep. Yun Shirshir's voice gradually softened. Seeing that the child had entered dreamland, she wanted to end the story. Xiao Chen, however, stood at the door and pitifully asked, "Mommy, can you finish the story? I still want to hear more." Yun Shirshir looked in the direction of the voice and saw Xiao Chen squatting at the door with his head in his hands. She did not know how long he had been there. "Why are you squatting there?" Yun Shirshir did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I can't sleep, so I want to hear Mommy's story." Xiao Chen cupped his little face. His chubby face was pink and tender, looking very adorable. He squinted his eyes and let out a crisp and gentle laugh. "Mommy's voice is so nice, and this story is so fun. Can Mommy continue to tell it to me? I really want to know what happened to this princess." Yun Shirshir gently curled her lips as she patted the edge of the bed lightly. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat, and he carefully closed the door. Afraid that the noise would wake Yun Tianyu up, he tiptoed to the bed. Yun Shirshir reached out and pulled him into her embrace. Xiao Chen blushed. No one had ever read him a fairy tale before he slept. Standing at the door and watching Yun Shirshir gently caress Yun Tianyu's hair as she read the story, he suddenly felt envious of his younger brother. For the past 7 years, Mommy would read him a fairy tale every day before he slept. How blissful! He was really envious. In the Mu residence, before he slept, he could only hug his doll and fall asleep in the cold room. It was very lonely. "Mommy, continue reading." Xiao Chen looked up at her expectantly. Yun Shirshir nodded. But who would have thought that a group of traders in the palace would find out that the king was out on an inspection tour? They would send all kinds of martial arts masters to kill the king on the way. The king and the others did not know that when they were in high spirits, a few masked men suddenly appeared, scaring them into sweating profusely. The 2 loyal guards tried their best to protect the king and Princess Love, but Princess Love was still knocked unconscious. The king thought that she was dead, so he didn't have time to bring her body back, so he quickly ran away. Yun Shirshir said, "Mommy, is this princess really dead?" "No, I just thought that the princess was dead." "Then the king must be very sad." "Yes, but why didn't the king leave with the princess?" "Ah." Yun Shirshir was stunned. She was amused by Xiao Yichen's persistent thirst for knowledge. It must be too late, right? At that time, many people were after the king. "The princess is so pitiful," Xiao Yichen said with pity. But the princess didn't die. 14 years later, the king heard that Princess Love was still alive, so he sent someone to put up a notice. Whoever can find Princess Love will be rewarded handsomely. Also, the princess has a heart-shaped jade pendant with her. When she read this, she was inexplicably stumped for a moment and did not continue her sentence. A heart-shaped jade pendant? Xiao Yichen widened his eyes in curiosity. "Is it a token?" "Yes." Xiao Yichen suddenly understood, and his eyes lit up. There must be only one jade pendant in the world. Then, the person who has this jade pendant must be the princess. "Mommy, did the king find the princess?" "Don't worry, Mommy will continue reading." Chapter 777. Yin Shirshir smiled and shook off those messy thoughts. She continued to read. A 19-year-old female fugitive from the Dark Kingdom escaped here. Her name is Jean Ling. She is very beautiful and has been very scheming since she was young. When she grew up, her parents died. She was chosen by the king of the Dark Kingdom and was given the title of Empress. However, she didn't know how to repay kindness. She conspired with the prime minister to usurp the throne. The king saw through her, and she escaped all the way here. A bad woman, yes, a bad person. Yun Shirshir turned the page and continued to read. When she saw the notice, Jean Ling was very happy. "This Princess Love is about the same age as me. I can pretend to be her and avoid the limelight of being hunted down. I can also enjoy a lifetime of glory and wealth." Therefore, Jean Ling invited the best sculptor in the city to sculpt her a love jade pendant that was exactly the same as the description on the notice. However, she didn't know that the real love jade pendant would break when it was dropped. In order to not cause more trouble, Jean Ling killed that person. Then, she pretended to take the jade pendant and entered the palace. When the king saw her and the jade pendant, tears streamed down his face as he poured out his longing for her. Jean Ling also pretended to cry, but in her heart, she was crying for success. Thus, she became a princess. This woman actually pretended to be a princess? When Xiao Yichen heard this, he suddenly clenched his fists in indignation. He was very angry. "Then where is the real princess?" The real princess was adopted by a fisherman's family. No one knew her name, but seeing that she was very naive, they all called her Xinjin. She lived happily with her adoptive parents. Although she knew that the fisherman couple wasn't her biological parents, she didn't know who her biological parents were. There was only a real love jade pendant by her side. Although the love jade pendant was only 18 years old, she was as beautiful as a flower. Because her family was poor, she could only go to the palace to be a maid. The head eunuch asked her to serve the princess. So pitiful. Xiao Yichen clenched his fists even more. A sad expression appeared on his handsome little face. He was completely immersed in the story and felt distressed for the princess. One day, the king and the fake princess were having a meal. The king recalled the past and suddenly wanted to see the love jade pendant. The fake princess took off her jade pendant disapprovingly. When she was about to give it to the king, the real princess happened to bump into the fake princess while carrying a dish. The jade pendant fell to the ground, but it didn't break. The princess cursed, "You dog slave! How dare you touch the most important thing to me and my father? How dare you?" When the real princess heard this, she was so scared that she knelt on the ground. "This servant deserves to die. Please forgive me, princess. Ah, Xiao Yichen suddenly sat down on the bed. His heart clenched as the story progressed. This fake princess is really bad. How annoying. She was clearly not the real princess, but she had actually replaced the identity of the real princess. Did the king not realize that the princess was a fake? It's too much. Yun Shirshir couldn't help but laugh. The king doesn't know that the princess is a fake. And then, what happened after that? Xiao Yichen asked anxiously. Chapter 778. Is the king going to find out that the princess is a fake? Xiao Yichen suddenly said angrily, "This king is so stupid. How can he not tell the difference between a real princess and a fake one?" Dog servant, quickly pick up the jade pendant. The fake princess shouted again. The real princess picked up the jade pendant and looked at it carefully. Why is it exactly the same as mine? After serving the princess, AIXIN ran to an old palace maid in the palace to ask about the jade pendant. The palace maid told her the cause of the matter. Although the maid didn't mention that she was the princess, she already knew her identity based on her intuition and the jade pendant. She was very upset and wanted to confess to her father, but could the king trust a maid and not the princess by his side? He couldn't. Yun Shirshir slowly flipped to the next page. However, Xiao Yichen's sharp eyes noticed that Yun Shirshir's fingertips were trembling slightly as she held the fairy tale book. Little Yichen's heart skipped a beat as he gently held her hand. "Mommy, are you feeling unwell?" "No." Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and continued to read. In the dead of night, the king couldn't sleep because of what happened today, so he took a walk in the palace alone. Suddenly, he heard a girl crying from the maid's room. The king couldn't help but walk there. He saw a girl holding a heart-shaped jade pendant and crying in front of the maid's room. The king took a big step forward and couldn't help but shout, "Daughter!" The heart-shaped jade pendant was frightened and looked up. When she saw the king, she loosened her grip, and the jade pendant fell to the ground and shattered. The father and daughter hugged each other tightly. "Wow," Xiao Yichen suddenly said emotionally. "The king finally found the princess." Perhaps because he was too excited, Xiao Yichen's voice woke Yu up. The latter frowned and turned over slightly. He buried his little face in Yun Shirshir's arms and fell asleep again. Xiao Yichen tensed up, thinking that he was going to wake his little brother up. Seeing that he had fallen asleep again, she heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at Yun Shirshir. The fake princess, Jinling, was found guilty of deceiving the emperor and offending his superiors. She should be beheaded. The love of the real princess announced to the world that it had been confirmed and allowed the loving adoptive parents, the fisherman couple, to live a good life. The kingdom of love is living a peaceful life again. After she finished reading the story, Xiao Yichen remained in a daze for a long time. Yun Shirshir also had a lot on her mind. She was silent for a long time, and the room was silent for a while. "That king is so stupid," Xiao Yichen suddenly said in disdain. "You can't even recognize your own daughter. You're so stupid." You wouldn't recognize it either. Yun Shirshir didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's been more than 10 years. The princess has grown up and must look different from when she was young. That's why the king didn't recognize her. However, Xiao Yichen said firmly, "No, Mommy, you're wrong. I'm not as stupid as the king." If I were that king, I would definitely recognize my princess at a glance. Xiao Yichen's expression was firm and serious. Why? Yun Shirshir was suddenly stunned. Because if I were the king, I would definitely love my daughter deeply. As a father, how could I not recognize my own daughter? Chapter 779. Little Yichen suddenly reached out his arms and hugged her waist tightly. Looking a little shy, he said, Just like the first time I saw Mommy, I felt that Mommy gave me a warm and affectionate feeling. You know, Mommy, before I met you, I would always dream of you. Dream of me? Yun Sure widened her eyes in shock. She found his words unbelievable. He was just a child, wasn't he? When he was born, he was taken away by the Mu family. Mother and son had never seen each other. How did he dream of her? It's true. Xiao Chen never lies. Xiao Chen looked up. The warm and charming smile in his eyes warmed Yun Shishi's heart. She couldn't help but hug him. Although I couldn't see Mommy's face clearly in my dreams, I could feel the warmth from Mommy's body. I often dreamed of my little brother running in front of me. I chased after him, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't catch up with him. I always thought that it was a dream. I didn't expect that I really had a little brother and a mommy. Xiao Yichen closed his eyes gently as he spoke. Some people say that it's telepathy. Telepathy? She didn't believe it in the past. Now, she found it magical. Mommy, we've already missed each other for 7 years. Can we never be separated again? We can always be together. After hearing the fairy tale, Xiao Yichen was deeply moved. He couldn't help but hug Yun Shishi's waist tightly. 7 years. 7 years of separation was neither a long nor a short period of time for her. However, to Xiao Yichen, he had been missing his mother's company for as long as he could remember. He envied you all the time. He wanted to spend the rest of his life with his mommy and never be separated again. Yun Shishi slowly hugged Xiao Yichen and said with a choked voice, Xiao Yichen, Mommy has been missing you for the past 7 years. In Mommy's heart, you're as important as you. Xiao Yichen blushed when he heard this. He was overjoyed. Mommy said that in her heart, he was as important as you. Mommy, in Xiao Yichen's heart, you're as important as Daddy. It was a soft and cute confession, full of warmth. Yu slowly opened her eyes. Her eyelids drooped as she pursed her lips. Mommy said that in her heart, Xiao Yichen was as important as him. At the same time, he felt a sense of loss in his heart. However, he did not feel an inexplicable rejection like before. It was understandable that Mommy liked Xiao Yichen. Mu Yichen was his older brother, and they shared the same blood. It was only natural that Mommy doted on him. However, he was certain that in Mommy's heart, she felt guilty toward Xiao Yichen. Compared to Mu Yichen, Mommy probably loved him more. Even if it was just a little, Yu's thoughts ran wild. He felt helpless and could not help but hug Yun Shishi even tighter. Yun Shishi was stunned. She thought that he had woken up. She turned to look and saw that Yu's eyes were tightly shut. He looked quiet and obedient, as if he was still in dreamland. She patted Xiao Yichen's forehead and said softly, Go to sleep. Okay. Good night, Mommy. Xiao Yichen tucked her in, but forgot to take care of himself. This kid was just like Yu. They both knew how to care for others. Chapter 780. Yun Tianyu closed his eyes too, but he suddenly felt a warmth on the back of his hand. Startled, he opened his eyes and saw a small hand on the back of his. It was soft and warm. The hand was slightly bigger than his, so it was just right to wrap around his small hand. Yu raised his head slightly. His body was quiet and did not make a sound. Looking past Yun Shishi, he saw Xiao Yichen burying his face in the blanket with his eyes tightly shut. His hand was gently placed on the back of his hand. Suddenly, he held his hand and interlocked their fingers. Both of them wore the same amethyst necklace. Under the bright moonlight outside the window, it emitted a beautiful and shimmering radiance. That was a gift from Xiao Yichen. It was of the same design, and he was wearing the same bracelet on his wrist. I picked this out for you as a gift. Do you like it? You haven't answered my question. Do you like it? He still remembered how carefully Xiao Yichen put the bracelet on him. His actions were sincere and gentle. At that moment, he almost blurted out, "I like it." He liked this necklace. He liked it because it was very beautiful. He once suspected that Xiao Yichen had personally picked it. He did not believe that his brother had such taste. He liked it. That was because this was the first gift from Xiao Yichen. He cherished it from the bottom of his heart and could not bear to open it because even the packaging was exquisite. However, because of his awkward personality, he found it difficult to say those two words out loud. He always felt that it was a very embarrassing thing. Although he had not accepted Xiao Yichen on the surface, deep down, he had already accepted him as his brother. Yu looked at Xiao Yichen's peaceful sleeping face and could not calm down for a moment. His features were so similar to his. When the two of them stood together, it was like looking into a mirror. If one did not look at their height and figure, one would not be able to tell them apart. The image of little Yichen chasing after him seemed to appear in his mind as he nervously asked, "Daddy, Mommy, do you think it's good for me to live with you in the same house?" A family of 4 living together. This was something he didn't even dare to think about in the past. He always felt that it was too much to hope for. Yu's eyes flickered, and her gaze fell on the amethyst necklace in her hand. Her eyes reflected the purple luster, and her pink lips couldn't help but open. "I do." You subconsciously opened his mouth. When he realized that he had said those 2 words, he was shocked. He bit his lip hard, but he couldn't take back his words. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He nervously looked at Mu Yichen, only to see that the little fellow seemed to have fallen asleep and was not disturbed by his voice. Maybe he's asleep? So, she probably didn't hear what he said just now. Yu's expression finally returned to normal, and he sighed softly. Sometimes, it was hard to say the truth. He always said things that didn't mean. Actually, he really liked Xiao Yichen's gift, but when he looked at his face, it was hard for him to say the word, like, Yu lay down again and slowly closed his eyes. Drowsiness overwhelmed him, and he quickly fell asleep. However, on the other side, Xiao Yichen slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth curved into a happy smile. Chapter 781. Early the next morning, Yu was shrouded in a nightmare. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat. In his dream, he was surrounded by 2 walls. He could only feel a stifling pressure on him, making it hard for him to breathe. He tried his best to escape, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not escape. He could only watch helplessly as the 2 huge walls slowly closed in on him. Just as he was about to suffocate, he woke up with a start. In his hazy sleepiness, he only felt that it was unusually crowded. Yu opened his eyes wider and looked up, only to see Yun Shirshir's sleeping face. Startled, he tried to sit up on the bed. Just as he turned over, he saw Muyaja's handsome face right in front of him. Muyaja? Why is he sleeping here? Too? When did he squeeze in here? An inexplicable feeling rose in his heart. He wanted to sit up, but he felt a heavy weight pressing down on him. He immediately looked down and did not know what was pressing down on him. He did not know when Xiao Yichen had half his body on top of him and one of his legs was hanging on Muyaja's long legs. He struggled slightly and sat up. Only then did he get a clear view of the bed's layout. Mommy was hugging him, and Muyaja was hugging her. He was sandwiched in the middle. The 2 walls in his dream were probably because he was sandwiched between them. Yun Shirshir's sleeping posture was more peaceful and well-behaved. The most restless one was none other than Xiao Yichen. Half of his body was on top of Yun Shirshir's lower body, and the other leg was hanging on her body. His sleeping posture could only be described as horrible. No wonder he felt that he could not breathe in his sleep. He only had nightmares with such a heavy guy on top of him. This guy, his sleeping posture was too unsightly. Yu pushed Xiao Yichen's head in dissatisfaction, only to see Xiao Yichen turn over. His whole body was on top of him, and one of his legs was on top of Mu Yaja's face. In his sleep, Mu Yaja pushed Xiao Yichen's leg away unhappily. Little Yichen's brows furrowed slightly as he unhappily placed his foot on it. Mu Yaja pushed it away again. Xiao Yichen put his leg up again. The father-son pair seemed to be in a standoff. Yu rolled his eyes. It was still early in the morning, and he had not yet woken up. He had accumulated a bellyful of anger, yet he had nowhere to vent it. In a fit of anger, he grabbed Xiao Yichen's ear and twisted it. Ouch! Xiao Yichen woke up from the pain. He rolled on the bed and got up. He looked around for a while and saw Yu's sleepy eyes filled with anger. What's wrong? Xiao Yichen rubbed his eyes and asked innocently, Look at you. How did you sleep? Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and used him as an excuse. Little Yichen lowered his head to take a look and was baffled. What's wrong? Didn't I sleep well? You're on top of me. Are you trying to crush me to death? Yu questioned him with an aggrieved expression. Xiao Yichen rubbed his messy forehead and looked up at the sky. He pursed his lips and looked like he was about to cry. I didn't do it on purpose. You're so fierce. Also, I didn't put all my weight on you. Mu Yichen, do you always sleep in such a barbaric manner? Yu narrowed his eyes dangerously. No. How am I barbaric when I sleep? Chapter 782. No, I'm not. How is my sleeping posture barbaric? If this isn't barbaric, do you want to go to heaven? Yu exploded as he pinched his cheeks and ravaged them. Xiao Yichen had just woken up and was still in a daze. He did not react to Yu's ravaging of his cheeks and only wanted to sleep. Plop! Xiao Yichen collapsed on top of him. His whole body was on top of him. Yu's eyes widened in shock. He reached out to push him away, only to hear Xiao Yichen's face pressing against his, as he mumbled sleepily, I'm so sleepy. Brother, let's sleep for a while more, okay? No. Get up. Woo. I'm clearly not awake yet. Xiao Yichen acted coquettishly on top of him. Yu was pinned down by him and could not move. He did not even have the strength to struggle as he cried out aggrievedly, Mommy! Mommy! Save me! Mu Yichen, get off me right now. Do you hear me? You're crushing me to death. Yun Shishir was awakened from her dream by Yun Tianyou's cry for help. She thought that something had happened, but when she opened her eyes, she saw Xiao Yichen lying limply on her brother's body. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Mommy, save me. Mu Yichen is so heavy, I can't breathe with him on top of me. You whined coquettishly. His small, handsome face was on the verge of tears. Xiao Yichen, be good and get off your brother. Yun Shishir went to carry Xiao Yichen as she coaxed him. Xiao Yichen shook his head unwillingly. No, I want to sleep with my brother. Yun Shishir. Yun Tianyou angrily said, I'm ordering you to get off of me. I'm heavy. No, your body is so soft. It's so comfortable to sleep on your body. Mu Yichen, hurry up and come down. Shoo, lower your voice. Don't wake the great demon king. What great demon king? Daddy is the great demon king. He has a very bad temper when he wakes up. If you wake him up, it will be very scary, Yun Tianyou. The short 3-day holiday ended very quickly. Mu Yaja took Yun Shishir for a follow-up examination. The doctor said that her injuries had almost recovered, and it would be best if she recuperated for a few more days. Then there would not be any major problems, and there would not be any sequelae. The two little munchkins who were standing behind him heard the conversation. They looked at each other and finally calmed down. Yun Shirshir was naturally very happy that her injuries had recovered. She planned to rest for a few days before returning to the set to continue filming. After sending the two children home, Yun Shirshir planned to go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities. Muyaja was, of course, the one in charge of driving her. Yun Shirshir went to the supermarket to buy many daily necessities. While pushing the trolley, she compared the different styles of products in front of the display cabinets. Muyaja stood beside her. Seeing her focused look, he found it a little strange. "What are you looking at?" "I'm looking at the price. I'll buy whichever is cheaper." Yun Shirshir was already used to comparing prices. Her salary was not high in the past, so she had to calculate everything carefully. Every time she returned to the supermarket, she would take a while to carefully compare the price-performance ratio before buying it. After returning home, she would carefully record it. Even though she no longer needed to live frugally, she still couldn't get rid of this habit. "Which color do you like?" Chapter 783. This is a black and white checkered one. He preferred simple colors and designs. He didn't like things with complicated patterns. Yun Shirshir made a mental note of it. In the car, Yun Shirshir sent Lin Fengtian a WeChat message to inform him. Not long after, perhaps because Lin Fengtian wasn't busy, he replied with a long reply. Sure. Where have you been these few days? You weren't at the hospital, and I couldn't get through to your phone. I originally brought the crew to the hospital to visit you, but the doctor said that you were discharged. You were discharged so early. Why don't you rest for a while?" "I went on a vacation to relax," Yun Shirshir replied with a smiley face. Lin Fengtian replied, "Oh, it's good to go out to relax. I was busy with the crew and couldn't visit you in time. I'm sorry." "Director Lin, don't say that. You're a big director with a lot of work to do every day. You must be busy," she teased him mischievously. Lin Fengtian replied with a string of ellipses. Then he sent another message. "Rest for a while. Welcome back to the crew." "Okay, thank you." "You still plan to return to the crew?" Muyaja looked straight ahead and asked. "Yes." Yun Shirshir nodded. They stopped at a traffic light. Muyaja suddenly turned to look at her and said, "I'll take care of you." "Huh." Yun Shirshir didn't react for a moment and looked at him. However, when she came back to her senses and heard what he said, her expression changed. "What do you mean?" "Literally." Muyaja looked at her deeply. Sure, I'll take care of you. So don't act or work. Just stay by my side." Yun Shirshir stared at him in a daze. She couldn't react for a long time. She didn't know why, but generally speaking, when a man said this to a woman, most women would feel very happy. However, when she heard such words from Muyaja, for some reason, she felt a little unhappy. Muyaja fixed his eyes on her, only to see her silent, handsome eyebrows slightly raised. Listening to what I said, "You seem unhappy." The red light turned green, but Muyaja didn't react immediately. It wasn't until the irritable honking behind him alerted him that he turned his gaze to the front. He stepped on the accelerator, and the car continued to move forward. The mottled shadows of the trees outside the window kept flashing by. The sun shone through the window, warming the room. "Muyaja, are you willing to raise me?" "Yes." Muyaja's lips curled into a smile. He thought it was a happy thing to raise the woman he loved. Moreover, he had a magnificent empire of wealth. Did his woman need to go out to work and be looked down upon by others? When he thought of that day when Yan Bingqing had slapped her, his heart throbbed with pain. In his heart, blacklisting her was still letting her off lightly. This kind of woman, who dared to touch his woman, deserved to die. However, when he thought of her returning to the set, to the smoky entertainment industry. There would be a second Yan Bingqing and a third Yan Bingqing. He was worried. He couldn't bear for her to be wronged. That was all. I'll take care of you. Mu Yaja controlled the steering wheel. So, you don't have to return to that set anymore. I don't want it, she replied blandly. Mu Yaja looked at her with surprise. Why? Why did you say no? Chapter 784. What's so strange about it? I just feel that it's very strange. You don't let me work or film. So what do you want me to do? Be a housewife, quietly at home, like most Japanese wives who only need to stay at home and quietly wait for their husband's return? You said that you're raising me, but I feel that I'm no different from a canary in a cage. She calmly stated her point of view, and every word of her point of view made Mu Yaja's heart flutter. The Mu family was a standard patriarchal family. Perhaps some views were deeply ingrained in his heart, but Yun Shirshir would ruthlessly break these ideas every time. Women needed to work. Women needed to be financially independent. Women couldn't rely on men all the time. She was indeed different from other women. Take the entertainment industry, for example. Many female celebrities entered the entertainment industry for nothing more than the competition for fame and fortune. They longed to stand out, and even more so, they longed to fly up into the branches and become a phoenix, marrying into a wealthy family and becoming a young mistress of a prestigious family. Women in wealthy families were indeed like canaries in a cage. Everything revolved around the center of the man. On the surface, they seemed to be endlessly glamorous, but in reality, in order to maintain the appearance of prosperity and vanity, they were physically and mentally exhausted. Even so, there were still many women who flocked to this cage like a flock of ducks. However, she only wanted to escape from such a cage. How can you compare yourself to those women? Mu Yaja unhappily grabbed her chin and kissed her lips unhappily. You're not a canary, you're my woman. Yun Shirshir was stunned, and her eyes widened in astonishment. Mu Yaja continued, You're different from them. I said that I'm raising you because you're too stupid and get bullied all day long. How am I stupid? She waved her fist and protested unhappily. Mu Yaja grabbed her hand and said, If you want to work, if you want to film, that's fine. But don't let yourself be wronged. If you're bullied, I'll be very angry. Really angry. When he saw her being humiliated by Yan Bingqing, he almost couldn't control himself and turned the entire crew upside down. Yun Shirshir was secretly shocked and looked at him. Her heart warmed as she smiled and said, All right, I won't let myself be wronged and bullied by others anymore. Did I do that for the sake of the big picture? For the sake of the big picture, you don't care about yourself. Mu Yaja said coldly, Do you know, my heart will ache. However, his voice stopped abruptly. There were some words that he found hard to say. Yun Shirshir blinked. Seeing that he still had something to say, she asked curiously, No what? Nothing. Mu Yaja reached out and rubbed her hair, but he couldn't help but poke her eyebrows. Woman, I realize that sometimes you really are a blockhead. What's wrong now? There are so many women in the industry who want to get close to me. You're turning a blind eye to such a big backer? Yun Shirshir's peach blossom eyes were bright and beautiful. She smiled faintly and said, Of course, I'm relying on you. Why wouldn't I rely on you? But it was strange. Who would beg others to rely on their backers? Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and smiled. Sometimes she thought that this man was quite cute. She hadn't been in the capital these few days and didn't know what had happened in the capital. She also didn't know that Yan Bingqing had been blacklisted. Chapter 785. She just did not want them to worry about these things. Therefore, Yun Shishir did not know what kind of embarrassing situation Yen Bingqing was in at the moment. She felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in her chest when she thought about how she would have to fight with this hateful woman after joining the cast. It was extremely uncomfortable. What should she do? She hated Yen Bingqing so much and did not want to see her at all. She was very unhappy when she thought about how she would have to see that disgusting face every day when she returned to the cast. She had a temper too. She had tolerated her on set because she did not want to cause any trouble. She heard that Yen Bingqing was arranged by the investor and that Yen Bingqing could get the role because of her background. That was why she could do whatever she wanted in the cast. Although Yen Bingqing and her agent had specially come to the hospital to apologize to her, she had also given Yen Bingqing a lot of cold shoulders on the spot because of Mu Yaja's power. Yen Bingqing was probably going to die of anger because of her. Yun Shishir pursed her lips. To be honest, she had felt secretly satisfied when she had humiliated Yen Bingqing. But when she thought about how she would have to meet this woman again when she returned to the cast, she did not know what she would do to hurt her. Yun Shishir felt inexplicably irritated. The car slowly drove into the underground car park and stopped in the parking space. Yun Shishir glanced at Mu Yaja's handsome side profile, which was hidden in the shadows, and thought about it. How about, she thought to herself. Yun Shishir's lips curled into a smile. She stretched out her arms, and her enchanting body slowly leaned forward and wrapped around his neck. A trace of surprise flashed across Mu Yaja's eyes. He saw her leaning slightly closer to him and whispering in his ear. This soft and gentle call seemed to be able to make one's bones go soft. He had never heard a voice that was more moving than this. It turned out that his name sounded so good when she said it. This woman actually took the initiative to court him, or was she trying to seduce him with her beauty? Mu Yaja looked at her with an astonished expression, only to see that in the dim light of the basement, her face and ears were flushed pink. She softly snuggled up to him, her eyes coquettish and seductive, extremely alluring. She was like a little demon who could charm all living beings. He raised his eyebrows playfully. This woman being so attentive, it seemed like she had something to ask of him. Can you promise me something? Yun Shishir whispered in his ear. He closed his eyes and smelled the fresh fragrance on her body. Some of his thoughts could no longer be suppressed and became restless. Reaching out his arm, he held her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. He couldn't help but gently bite her pink ear. Stupid woman, are you trying to seduce me with your beauty? Sure enough, he saw her softly stick to him and smiled coquettishly. Can you do me a favor? What is it? That Yen Bingqing, can you kick her out? Yun Shishir narrowed her eyes and smiled. I don't want to be in the same production team as her. Mu Yaja gave a deep smile when he heard that. Yen Bingqing, he had already blacklisted her and removed her from the cast of The Green Apple. Moreover, Yen Bingqing's videos had already been cut, and her role would be played by another person. She didn't know about it yet. Did she think that Yen Bingqing was still on the set? Chapter 786. He wanted to hear how this woman would beg him. She rarely asked him to do something for her. Are you afraid of her? Mu Yaja pulled her into his arms, grabbed her chin, and smiled. Not necessarily. That day, when Yen Bingqing came to the hospital to apologize to you, you were so fierce with your little mouth. After saying that, he couldn't help but lower his head and gently seal her lips. His pearly white teeth nibbled on her soft lips, and he was a little infatuated with the fresh fragrance between her lips and teeth. For a moment, he didn't pay attention to his strength and bit her painfully. Yun Shishir's eyes were tinged with a hint of coquettishness, and she bit him back hard. She pressed her lips tightly against his thin lips, caressed his face, and said slowly in a coquettish tone, "Who's afraid of her? I just think that she's quite disgusting. If she were to play any tricks again, it would be quite annoying. Moreover, her acting skills are so bad. I'm so tired that I'm practically peeling off a layer of water from acting with her. Why don't we just kick this kind of actress out of the production team? Je, please." It was rare for her to act coquettishly. Her soft and coquettish tone made one feel numb in their bones. Her delicate little mouth pressed tightly against his thin lips, her breath smelling like orchids, and her pair of charming eyes met his handsome ones. Her charming eyes seemed to have an electric current. Mu Yaja only felt a current from his heart to his limbs and bones, and a burning sensation suddenly came from his lower abdomen. It was boiling hot and terrifying. His eyes gradually deepened, and there was a deep desire in the depths of his eyes that didn't need to be concealed at all. He was straightforward and explicit. "Woman, you're asking the right person." He suddenly held the back of her neck, and his tall and imposing body pressed against her. "Dealing with Yin Bingqing is just a matter of saying a word. I can shut her out of the industry. The question is, what are you going to do next?" Mu Yaja waited for her performance. He wanted to see what this woman would do. Yun Shusher's eyes flashed. This man was obviously using this as a pretext to tempt her. She thought that if she wanted him to shut out Yen Bingqing, she only needed to say a few nice words and act coquettishly, and it would be a matter of course. But she didn't expect that this vile man actually had conditions. Mu Yaja pressed his body down, his dark and deep eyes fixed on her face, looking forward to her performance when she wanted to please him. For a moment, she did not understand the meaning behind his words. "What do you mean?" What do you mean, woman, it's impossible for me to not have conditions when you ask me to do something. Click. Two. The partition slowly rose, blocking the transparent windows, and separating the inside and outside of the car into two different worlds. He casually pressed the button, and the atmosphere lights in the car lit up with a purple light. At this moment, the private car park was surrounded by darkness. "You have conditions?" Yun Shusher's lips were a little stiff. "What conditions?" He slowly attached himself to her ear, and his sexy and charming voice whispered in her ear, "Woman, please me?" Chapter 787. At this moment, Mu Yaja was like a strategist. In fact, when it came to relationships, the man was usually the one who took the initiative. Yun Shusher, in particular, was the passive party most of the time. He wanted to see how she would perform if she were to take the initiative in this matter. Yun Shusher pursed her lips, feeling like retreating a little. Mu Yaja glanced at the flickering light in her eyes and teased, "Why? You don't dare? What's there to be afraid of?" Yun Shusher refused to admit her mistake. "I just don't know how to. I'll teach you." With that, Mu Yaja bent his head and kissed her. The moment he kissed her, she was still as delicious and tempting as before. The tip of his tongue kept rubbing against her lips, infatuated with the sweet taste between her lips and teeth. However, no matter how much he kissed, he could not get enough of it. Her little mouth was like the most addictive poison in the world, and he wanted more after tasting it. During their vacation on the island, with Yun Tianyo's interference, he did not have the chance to be intimate with her. His body was already tense from yearning for her. He wanted her very much. Especially when he kissed her lips, the desire buried in his body became more and more clamorous and restless. Hugging her, his arm slowly slid down to her waist and gently kneaded her soft waist. It was so small that he could hold it in his hand. She was thin and petite. Yun Shusher nestled in his spacious embrace and knew how to respond. The dark desire in her body was also aroused by him and rippled like a river of spring water. Suddenly, he stopped the kiss and looked up at her with a meaningful gaze. Yun Shirshir, who was originally immersed in the endless tenderness of the kiss, stopped abruptly. "Have you learned it?" he asked in a low voice. Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and said somewhat mockingly, "Your kissing skills are average." "Average?" Muyaja's eyes revealed a dangerous look. "Are you saying that my kissing skills are average? Don't tell me that you've never kissed any woman before me." Yun Shirshir asked with a sly look in her eyes. Muyaja glanced at her, but did not say anything. This stupid woman. How could he admit that he had never had any woman before her? She was his only woman. Yun Shirshir slowly caressed his lips, held his face, and gently kissed the corner of his mouth, continuing the kiss that had stopped abruptly. The temperature in the car suddenly rose. She placed her hands on his shoulders and suddenly flipped over to sit on top of him, her enchanting and coquettish figure intimately pressed against him. Her small hand slowly moved downwards along his chest. Yun Tianyu sat in the study room. During his vacation, his tablet and phone had been confiscated by Muyaja. Once he got home, he switched on his computer. His inbox was flooded with emails. He was browsing through the emails when his phone rang. Yu picked up the call and heard Lee Hanlon's voice from the other end. "Director Yun, your call finally got through. I thought you were missing and was so worried that I almost filed a missing person report for you." Yu's lips twitched. "I went on vacation with my dearest mommy." "Vacation?" Lee Hanlon was stunned. It was so scary. For the past few days, he could not get through to his phone, did not reply to his messages, and did not reply to his emails. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. "I have something to report," Yu said. Chapter 788. Lee Hanlon then told him about how Yen Bingqing had been banned from the entertainment industry. Yun Tianyu interrupted him impatiently. "You don't have to tell me about this. ? What does Yen Bingqing have to do with me?" "Director Yun, Yen Bingqing was blacklisted by Huan Yu because of Muyaja's order," said Lee Hanlon. Yun Tianyu's interest was piqued when he brought it up. "Why?" "Because Yen Bingqing bullied a newbie in the production team. She used a scene to slap a newbie 16 times. "Bullied a newbie?" Yun Tianyu tapped his fingertips on the tabletop and narrowed his eyes dangerously. Yen Bingqing slapped a newbie. An ominous feeling rose in his heart. Sure enough, he heard Lee Hanlon's solemn voice say, "Rumor has it that the newbie who was slapped 16 times is your mommy." Yen Bingqing slapped her a total of 16 times. "I heard that many people present saw it. However, to protect your mommy, Huan Yu ordered the production team to keep it a secret, so ***. Yun Tianyu stood up abruptly and walked to the window. He clenched his fists tightly and was filled with hostility. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "I only found out about this 2 days ago. I don't pay much attention to entertainment news, so I only found out about it from the media reports 2 days ago. I tried calling you, but I couldn't get through." Lee Hanlon's tone was full of guilt. Yun Tianyu bit his knuckles hard. His handsome brows furrowed deeply as he looked out of the window. His pair of clear and bright peach blossom eyes instantly emitted a piercingly cold glint. How could he be so careless? His mommy was injured, yet he only found out about it now. It could not be wrong. That Yen Bingqing must have bullied his mommy a lot in the production team. Mild concussion, subconjunctival hemorrhage, perforated eardrum. In his mind, every frightening word flashed through his mind. He had seen his mommy's medical report. The doctor said that it was an accidental injury during filming, so he was skeptical at that time. Injury? If Mommy was filming martial arts, it was understandable for her to tease and injure herself. However, he had secretly glanced at the script a few times when filming a youth drama. There was no dangerous plot at all. How could Mommy be so seriously injured? Could filming produce subconjunctival hemorrhage? Perforated eardrums? Yun Tianyu did not believe her. However, Muyaja had also said the same thing. Even Mommy didn't mention it too much. When he asked repeatedly after the incident, Mommy only said that it was because of an injury during filming. He never thought that his mommy would be bullied to this extent on set. His hand that was gripping the phone kept trembling, and his knuckles turned white. Lee Hamlin also wanted to hide it from him, but after thinking about it, he didn't dare to do so. Yun Tianyu would find out about this sooner or later. Yun Shirshir had always been his reverse scale, his weakness. No one could touch her. If anyone dared to harm a single hair on Yun Shirshir's head, they would undoubtedly have touched the dragon's reverse scale and would definitely be enraged. Who is this Yen Bingqing? How dare you run amok in the crew so brazenly? I heard that the production team of The Green Apple has a total of 4 major investors. Other than Liji Holdings, there are 3 other powerful investors. One of the investors was Yang Shouqing. Yen Bingqing's biggest backer is Yang Shouqing. Yang Shouqing, the boss of Hong Kong's European King Entertainment. Chapter 789. Lee Hamlin continued. Yen Bingqing's PR team is Yang Shouqing's former ace team under European King. They have made many A-list actresses famous, and their methods of creating hype are top-notch. Yen Bingqing's rise to fame can be said to be entirely due to Yang Shouqing's handiwork. Now, Yen Bingqing has been blacklisted by Huanyu, at least in the domestic market. Yen Bingqing has no way to make a comeback. Yu frowned. I don't care if she's blacklisted or not. If you dare to touch a strand of my mommy's hair, I won't let you off. After hanging up, Xiao Chen suddenly pushed open the door to the study room with a murderous look. He originally wanted to enter the study room, but as he stood at the door, he heard the conversation between Yun Tianyu and Lee Hanlin. He held his breath and was furious when he learned that his mommy had been slapped by someone on set. Yun Tianyu turned around and was shocked to see him. Why didn't you knock before entering my room? I was just outside the door, so I heard everything. Xiao Yichen's face turned cold. Mommy was bullied on set. Yun Tianyu turned around and coldly said, You don't have to care about this. Why? I'll handle this. No. Someone bullied my mommy. I want to avenge her. Xiao Yichen clenched his fists. Didn't you hear me? You don't have to care about this. Yun Tianyu's lips formed a cold and arrogant line as he coldly retorted. At this moment, his face no longer had the dazzling smile he had displayed in front of Yun Shirshir. Instead, it was cold and unfamiliar. His cold and stern expression made it seem as if his flesh and bones were made of ice and snow. It was frightening. Xiao Yichen was startled. His face turned cold in an instant, and the curve of his lips froze. That's my mommy, too. My mommy was bullied. I'm sad, too. Why don't you let me care about this? Yun Tianyu frowned and turned around. Just as he was about to flare up, he caught sight of Xiao Yichen's determined expression. Glancing at his flushed face, the words that were about to escape, his lips froze in his throat. I can tell you, but you have to keep this a secret from Mommy. Xiao Yichen nodded. Okay. Yun Shirshir had just returned home and put the daily necessities she had bought in the storeroom. She called out loudly, You Xiao Yichen. Not long after, the 2 little lads pounced on her with bright smiles on their faces, each occupying half of her arms. Yun Shirshir hugged the 2 glutinous rice balls tightly. Mommy, you're back. Mommy, you kiss kiss. The two little balls fought to be the first to kiss Yun Shirshir's cheeks, ignoring Mu Yaja, who was behind them, as if he was air. Mu Yaja deeply felt that he was being ignored. You suddenly asked suspiciously, "Mommy, why are you back so late?" Yun Shirshir's face revealed a hint of awkwardness. She subconsciously avoided his suspicious gaze and explained, "Mommy went to the supermarket to buy some things." "But you've been out for 4 hours. Yu narrowed his eyes, which were full of suspicion. "The supermarket is very close to home. It takes less than half an hour to go there and back. It won't take 4 hours at all." Yun Shirshir's face broke out in cold sweat. She was somewhat speechless. "Did Mommy secretly do something behind my back?" As Yu spoke, he glanced warily at Mu Yaja behind him. His intuition was so sharp that it made Yun Shirshir blush with shame. This little guy, did he have to be so sensitive? Chapter 790. Yu, Mommy will cook dinner for you guys today, okay? Yun Shirshir smilingly interrupted him to avoid this dangerous topic. Her suggestion was met with Yu's heartless rejection. "Mommy, you've just recovered from your injury, so don't go to the kitchen. Besides, the food you cook isn't as good as mine. Every time you finish cooking, the kitchen will be a mess, as if after a war. It's very tiring for me to clean up." Mu Yaja could not help glancing at her when he heard this. Yun Shirshir blushed a little at his ridicule, and the corner of her lips twitched violently. How could this rascal ruin her plans like this? Yun Shirshir helplessly sat down on the sofa. It was rare for her to show off her culinary skills, but with Yu around, she did not even have the chance to do so. She could only carry Xiao Yichen on the sofa and watch cartoons with him. "Mommy, I don't like to watch cartoons." Xiao Yichen comfortably nestled in her arms and acted coquettishly. Yun Shirshir raised a brow. "What do you like to watch, then?" "Channel 7. Channel 7. Yun Shirshir fell silent. Channel 7 was a military channel, and its content was all about war and military affairs. Hence, Yun Shirshir switched to Channel 7. In the kitchen, there were flashes of knives and swords. When Mu Yaja entered the kitchen, he saw Yun Tianyo's back, who was earnestly washing the dishes. Sensing his footsteps, Yun Tianyu turned to look at him from the corner of his eyes and suddenly asked, "Daddy, what do you like to eat?" "HM?" Mu Yaja raised a brow in surprise. When he realized that this daddy really came from the little guy's mouth, he was slightly stunned. This was the first time this little guy had taken the initiative to call him daddy. In the past, when the little guy called him daddy, he would either coerce or force him to do so unwillingly. Today, this was the first time he had taken the initiative to call him that. Mu Yaja's heart warmed, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a moment. Yun Tianyu furrowed his brows and blurted out, "Daddy, why aren't you saying anything? Is he suffering from Alzheimer's?" Mu Yaja's face instantly darkened. This guy was not cute at all. She felt touched just now. Mu Yaja couldn't help but reach out to rub his hair. Yun Tianyu did not evade him, though. Instead, he quietly let him ravage his hair like a docile kitten. Mu Yaja was even more surprised. In the past, Yu was extremely repulsed by his intimate actions. If someone touched him, even if it was just a strand of his hair, he would avoid it like the plague. He wouldn't let anyone touch him at all. Mu Yaja was puzzled. Was this child possessed? Today, he was unexpectedly docile and cute. He was not like before, when he would bare his fangs and brandish his claws at him, like a kitten whose territory was threatened. Mu Yaja tentatively pinched his cheeks again. They were sticky, soft, and chubby. The flesh on his face was as tender as tofu. It felt good to the touch. Yu did not resist at all. Instead, he let him ravage his cheeks, but his hands did not stop moving. He quietly washed the vegetables, smoothed them out, and placed them on the chopping board. just as he picked up the kitchen knife. A pair of strong arms slowly encircled his waist. His heart skipped a beat. From the corner of his eye, he looked back and saw Muyaja embracing him from behind, as if he were hugging a teddy bear. His embrace was so warm and spacious. Chapter 791. He could even clearly feel the man's toned muscles. Those handsome lines were strong and masculine. Yu Yu's hand movements suddenly slowed down. He suddenly remembered that in the past, when kindergarten classes were over, many of his classmates' fathers would wait outside the door early. He would always watch those children fly into their father's arms. He enviously fantasized that such strong chests should be a very warm world, right? Fatherly love was what he yearned for the most since he was young. He would always fantasize about how good it would be if he had a father. However, when a strange man really wanted to intrude into their home, he was extremely resistant and unwilling to accept it. Still, so what if he resisted? His mommy liked this man during these few days of vacation. Even though he repeatedly tried to obstruct her, he could tell that his mommy liked this man. She probably liked him a lot, right? He had never seen his mommy show such a shy and adorable expression in front of other men. Since this was the man his mommy liked, what reason did he have to reject him? He had previously told Yun Shirshir that he would unconditionally approve of whatever she chose and approved of. Hence, he no longer resisted Muyaja like before. This man might really be the man who could accompany his mommy for the rest of her life. Since that was the case, accepting it calmly was the greatest respect he could give her. Even though his possessiveness was causing trouble, he still felt uneasy. He was worried that this father-son pair would invade his mommy's heart. He was no longer as important as he used to be. Yu Yu bit his lower lip. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly felt a hand touching his body. It touched his wrist, and then his butt. Unable to tolerate it, he turned around and asked, "What are you doing?" Muyaja slapped his butt and muttered to himself, "Baby, why are you so skinny? You're even slimmer than Xiao Chen." Yu said, "Can you not compare me to that inhuman?" Xiao Chen's physique was shockingly good. When Muyaja first threw him into the special forces, he thought that the little guy would come running back crying. However, less than a month later, the head of the special forces called and said that the young master had adapted well in the training camp. He was young, but his physique was very strong. On the other hand, Yu Yu's physique was very weak. He had touched the boy's frame earlier. The boy's frame was slim and slender, just like a pretty boy's. His arms, especially, were more than enough for him to wrap around the boy's arms with 2 fingers and still have room to spare. Yu took a rag and slowly wiped the kitchen knife. She said indifferently, "I accepted you, but it doesn't mean that I like you. I accepted you because I will accept any man that mommy recognizes unconditionally." Muyaja was startled. His gaze fell on the side of his beautiful and exquisite face, only to see his drooping eyelashes, which were like the feathers of a black phoenix, fluttering like the wings of a butterfly. "Don't you like me?" Muyaja could not help pinching his tender cheeks. "Is the answer important whether I like you or not?" Yu raised a brow and retorted, "How is it not important?" Of course, it was important. He was his son. Of course, he cared about his feelings. Chapter 792. I'm just a passerby in your lives. Most of the time, the warmth that mommy needs is not something that I can give her. Only you can give it to her. Mommy likes you, so I accept you, but that doesn't mean that I approve of you. Muyaja was stunned. Yu continued, "I've always doted on mommy. I can't bear to make her sad. So, you're not allowed to bully her. Even if you make her feel wronged, don't let me know, because even if mommy forgives you, I won't." Muyaja could not help but feel that this son of his was really interesting and adorable to say such things. You're not allowed to let my mommy down. A pair of beautiful eyes filled with menace. To be honest, it was not appropriate to describe him as a mother-protective demon. His son was a true mother-protective demon. You continued. Since you've provoked my mommy, you'll have to provoke her forever. Don't make mommy sad. She's actually not as stubborn as she looks. She has a fragile heart that will break at the slightest touch. If you dare to make her sad, don't blame me for being ruthless. There was no doubt about it. If he dared to make his mommy sad, he would blow up the headquarters of Dishing Financial Group in the next second. This son of his was only gentle in front of his mommy, but he was really cold and rough to others. Mu Yaja suddenly caressed Yu Yu's cheek. He lowered his head and planted a loving kiss between his brows. Yu was stunned. His eyes widened as he stared at him in disbelief. The next second, his tender cheeks flushed with shyness. Yu curled his lips, but the next moment his face fell. He awkwardly reached out his hand and rubbed the spot where Mu Yaja had kissed with disdain. Although his face was full of disdain, his heart was beating wildly. He was nervous and shy. Yu looked up and glared at him shyly. His pink lips were tightly pursed, but his eyes could not hide his yearning for intimacy with him. What a proud boy! How could his darling's personality be so awkward? Sometimes she was quite cute. He reached out and ruffled Yuyu's hair as he said, "Thank you. Thank you for having such a well-behaved son who had protected her from the beginning to the end for 7 years. For what? Thank you for always protecting mommy. This is what I should do. There's no need to thank me." Yu scoffed. "Oh yeah, what do you like to eat? I'll cook it for you. You're willing to cook for me?" Yu blushed and said coldly, "Why? Can't I?" "I like everything you cook," Mu Yaja said honestly. In fact, he was extremely picky. However, as long as it was something his son made for him, he would like it. Yu pursed her lips and pondered for a moment. "All right, I'll make sweet and sour pork for you." "Okay." Mu Yaja turned around and bumped into Yun Shishir and Xiao Yichen, who were eavesdropping on their conversation at the door. The father and son's lips twitched. Yun Shishir said coquettishly, Yu, how dare you give your daddy special treatment behind my and Xiao Yichen's back?" Yu immediately felt wronged. "Mommy, no, I didn't give him." "That's great. Daddy can give us special treatment. We all have special treatment," Xiao Yichen said enviously. Chapter 793. Yu made sweet and sour pork for Daddy, but what did he make for Mommy? Yun Shishir teased him. Yu replied cutely, You made Mommy's favorite food. Sweet and sour pork is also Mommy's favorite. Yu only has Mommy in his heart." "All right, I won't tease you anymore." Yun Shishir did not know whether to laugh or cry. Her precious son was so adorable. Looking at Yun Shishir's charming smile, Yun Tianyo's heart was filled with contentment. He knew clearly that his mommy was teasing him on purpose. That was because his mommy loved his innocence the most. He unreservedly displayed the side of him that his mommy loved the most, even if he did not hesitate to act cute. The dim lights on the quiet street made it seem even more deserted. The night gradually turned chilly, and the evening wind blew a chill. Yan Bingqing could not help shrinking her body and quickening her pace. Returning home late from the studio, Yan Bingqing looked dejected as she paced back and forth on the street corner. In the past, when she was alone on the streets, she wished she could be fully armed, wearing sunglasses and a hat, for fear that the paparazzi would tail her and take photos. Now, however, no matter how gorgeously dressed she was, the paparazzi would no longer tail her. Huanyu's ban was thorough. In the first few days, her scandals were all over the internet. Her unbearable past was exposed to the public. Adultery, abortion, drug addiction, corrupt private life, and being a kept woman. These unsightly scandals were displayed one by one in front of everyone. Her reputation took a nosedive. This was the entertainment industry. When you were promoted, you were a high and mighty queen with limitless glory. When you were stepped on, you became a drowning dog that everyone despised. Everyone stepped on you, and each step was more heartless than the last. In the past, when she appeared in the headlines, her makeup was exquisite and her beauty was stunning. Now, however, when the media published her photos, she was haggard, disheveled, and down and out. Following that, Huan Yu issued an order to prohibit any media from reporting anything related to her. As long as there were rumors about her on the internet, they would be quickly deleted. News about her vanished without a trace on the vast internet, and there was no longer any exposure for her. This was Huan Yu's method, ruthless and thorough. She had thoroughly experienced Mu Yaja's ruthlessness. Yan Bingqing laughed mockingly. She suddenly felt that she was so pitiful. She had offended Mu Yaja, but she didn't even have a chance to struggle. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. What was even more frightening was that in addition to the mainland, Hong Kong, and overseas, all the advertising endorsements, movie contracts, and resources that she had racked her brains to obtain, those originally loyal fans had all left her. Regarding her, there was only a sea of criticism on the internet. It wasn't as if she hadn't experienced a low point since her debut, but for so many years, she had exhausted all means to achieve fame and fortune. She was almost unscrupulous. It wasn't easy for her to be crowned as Huan Yu's big sister. Flowers, applause, fame, money, everything she had was now gone. What she faced was only indifference, suspicion, and slander. Behind her back, there were so many people who were pointing fingers and pointing fingers. The most frightening thing was that it was impossible for her to even find a normal job. Even all her assets in the bank were frozen. Overnight, her hundreds of millions of assets evaporated, leaving her with nothing. Chapter 794. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a car's horn behind her. She turned around and saw a black car following closely behind her. She suddenly had an ominous premonition and quickened her pace. The headlights suddenly turned on, illuminating the road in front of her. Yan Bingqing was stunned, and the shadow under her feet elongated. She turned around in a panic, but because the lights were too bright, she couldn't see who it was. The car slowly approached her. Yan Bingqing was so nervous that she sucked in a breath of cold air, turned around, and ran forward quickly. The car suddenly sped up, and with the sound of the engine, it brushed past her. Yan Bingqing's waist was suddenly hit, and she felt a piercing pain. She was caught off guard and fell to the ground. A layer of skin scraped off her wrist. With a screeching sound of brakes, the car made a sharp U-turn. Yan Bingqing bent her body in a sorry state. Panting heavily, she turned around and saw the car stop by the roadside. Two men in black got out of the car, and with a murderous aura, they approached her dangerously. You guys, who are you? Yan Bingqing looked at them warily. A strange, heart-wrenching pain came from her lower abdomen, and fine beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She endured the pain in her lower abdomen and struggled to get up. Stumbling forward, she took out her phone and dialed Mo Yan's number with trembling hands. However, before the call was connected, a cold wind came from behind. Yan Bingqing's hair was suddenly grabbed, and the phone in her hand was snatched away. It fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. One of the men pushed her to the ground and sat on top of her. He waved his hand and slapped her hard on the cheek. The other man heartlessly dislocated the joints in her arm. Yan Bingqing groaned. She felt her head buzzing and her vision turning white. No, don't, What do you want? Yan Bingqing struggled to kick her legs. The men bent their knees and kicked her body. Their hands gripped her throat tightly, and their knuckles tightened. Yan Bingqing's face was flushed red. She frowned and coughed nonstop. Gradually, she felt a buzzing sound in her ears, and her mind went blank. Just as she was about to suffocate, a cold voice sounded. "Let her go." The two men immediately let her go. Yan Bingqing raised her head in a panic and saw a thin little boy standing not far away. In the dazzling headlights, Yan Bingqing couldn't see the little boy's face clearly for a moment, but she could vaguely see his delicate outline. His eyes emitted a cold light. "Your name is Yan Bingqing?" "Aye." Yun Tianyu slowly narrowed his eyes and walked toward her gracefully. His steps were extremely graceful, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. When he reached her side, she was finally able to clearly see his handsome and delicate features. Yu lowered his head. His cold gaze fell on Yan Bingqing's flustered and helpless face. His eyes were filled with contempt and disdain. Who are you?" Yan Bingqing's pale lips trembled helplessly. Even though the person standing in front of her at this moment was just a child who seemed to have no strength to truss a chicken when she met his pair of cold and dark eyes, her heart couldn't help but tremble from fear. This boy had a mature aura that did not match his age, and a cold aura was constantly emitting from his body. Chapter 795. Yan Bingqing frantically tried to get up from the ground, but Yu lifted his legs slightly and expressionlessly stepped on her dislocated wrist. "Ah!" Yan Bingqing shrieked. The excruciating pain from her wrist made her break out in cold sweat. "You're Yan Bingqing." Yu opened his mouth. His voice was clearly still childish, but his tone was bone-chilling, making one's hair stand on end. Yan Bingqing shuddered. "You, who exactly are you? You don't have to know who I am." Yun Tianyu slowly said, "I'm only here to take back some things for my mommy." "What do you mean?" Yan Bingqing was stunned. The child suddenly raised his voice and said, "Help her up." Yes. Two men in suits immediately went forward and helped her up. Yan Bingqing felt her legs go weak. The scene in front of her was too strange. A group of tall men in suits, who looked well-trained, were actually waiting for orders from such a young child. If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would not believe that a child's words could be so inviolable. "Hit her," Yun Tianyu casually ordered. A man in a suit walked up to her, and, without a word, gave her a tight slap. Yan Bingqing's face was abruptly slapped to one side. Caught off guard, her lips and teeth collided violently. She felt a sharp pain on her lips, and she immediately tasted a sweet, fishy taste. Her ears buzzed. The strength of a man's hand was no match for that of a woman's. This was especially so for a well-trained bodyguard with a military background. His slap was 5 times that of Yan Bingqing's. Yan Bingqing was a little dazed by this slap. She groaned in pain, but could not even make a sound. Her throat seemed to be blocked. She could not even make a sound due to the immense fear. "Does it hurt?" Yun Tianyu raised his arrogant chin slightly. His eyes were calm and his voice was gentle, yet it made one shudder. Yan Bingqing's lips trembled uncontrollably as tears welled up in her eyes. "Continue," Yun Tianyu ordered. The man gave her another slap. Smack! Yan Bingqing's hands were tied up. She didn't even have the chance to struggle. After 2 slaps, half of her face instantly went numb and lost all feeling. Tears overflowed from her eyes and trickled down. Woo, woo, woo. She let out a soft sob. All the grievances she had suffered these past few days turned into tears, wetting her face. Continue. Smack. The slap's soul-trembling force. Yan Bingqing cried, "Why are you doing this to me?" I know I'm wrong, but isn't that enough? Is this not enough? She was already in a desperate situation and had nothing left. Was this punishment enough? Yun Tianyo's eyes were cold as he nonchalantly asked, "Do you think it's enough?" "I think it's enough. It's enough. I'm already living a life worse than death." Sob, 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 sob. Yen Bingqing let out a hysterical roar, releasing all the haze in her heart. Yun Tianyu slowly walked to her and sized her up with a cold gaze. "I'm not the one who banned you. I'm only here to take back what you owe my mommy." Yen Bingqing was stunned. A total of 16 slaps. Not one less. "Your mommy?" Yen Bingqing pondered for a moment. Her eyes widened in shock. This child. Chapter 796. In the middle of the night, Mo Yen suddenly received a call from Yen Bingqing. When he saw the caller ID on the screen, he felt inexplicably irritated. He did not know what she was up to this time. Recently, because of Yen Bingqing, half of his hair had turned white. Now that Yen Bingqing was ruined, his career was also ruined. His interests were tied to Yen Bingqing's. They were bound together for good or ill. Now that Yen Bingqing had fallen, he was also banned by Huanyu. It was completely over. It was when he had a splitting headache, just as he was about to sleep. He was woken up by her call. Full of anger, he picked up the call. Just as he was about to flare up, he heard Yen Bingqing's painful voice from the other end. "Mo Yen, save me." Mo Yen sat up in bed in shock. "What's wrong?" "Mo Yen, I think I have a miscarriage." He was so shocked that he was suffocating. He hurriedly hailed a taxi. When he arrived, he saw Yen Bingqing lying weakly in the flower bed. Her lower body was stained with blood, and her blood-stained hand was holding her phone tightly. Her face was lifeless, like a withered flower. Mo Yen walked to her side and looked at her blood-stained skirt in shock. His eyes were full of shock and helplessness. "Bingqing, what's wrong?" When Mo Yen's gaze landed on her face, he was shocked again. Yen Bingqing's face was swollen from the slap. There was a bloody cut at the corner of her lips, and blood kept oozing out. It was extremely horrifying. He had never seen Yen Bingqing in such a sorry state. Her originally stunning face was no longer lively, and she looked sickly and pale. "Your face was hit by someone?" "Mo, Yen, it hurts, my stomach hurts." Yen Bingqing held her stomach and said in a broken voice, "Ugh, send me to the hospital." "Mo Yen, I think I have a miscarriage." "Miscarriage? You're pregnant." Mo Yan's eyes widened in shock, but he did not have time to care so much. He picked her up horizontally and ran to the side of the road. Yen Bingqing said with a pale face, "I don't know. I'm pregnant, but I haven't come for 3 months. I might be pregnant." "Pregnant? Yen Bingqing, you're really—" Mo Yen was so angry that he was speechless. Didn't he tell her to take precautions? Why was she pregnant at such a critical moment? The problem was she had so many men, and she had to deal with 3 of them. Did she know who the father of this child was? "Mo, what should I do? Now that I'm like this, I might as well just die." Yen Bingqing was completely disheartened. Her current appearance made her wish she was dead. Her hatred for Yun Shishir had seeped deep into her bones. If she could, she wanted to perish together with her. "Mo Yen, what should I do? What should I do?" "Shut up," Mo Yen said irritably. "It's fine if you humiliate yourself, but you even implicated me. Yen Bingqing, who can you blame for being in this state? Didn't I warn you not to be too ostentatious in the entertainment industry and to be careful with your words and actions? But you offended people everywhere, and you even offended Mu Yaja. What do you want me to do?" Yen Bingqing sobbed, breaking down and crying. She was in a sorry state. Mo Yen hailed a taxi, and hurriedly carried her into it. Chapter 797. Why is it covered in blood? Let's get this straight. If you dirty the back seat, you'll have to pay for the car wash. Yen said angrily, "You'll get what you deserve. Go to the hospital first. Your life is more important." Sigh. It's the middle of the night. How unlucky to have picked you two up. The driver muttered unhappily. If not for the fact that he would be reported for refusing to pick them up, he would have chased them out of the car. He was unlucky. Yen was so angry that his face turned green. Now that they were in dire straits, even a lowly driver dared to look down on them. The taxi dropped them off at the hospital. Yen threw a 100 yuan note and hurriedly carried Yen Bingqing to the emergency room. Yen Bingqing had already fainted. The doctor also recognized Yen Bingqing and did a simple checkup for her. With a cold face, he said, "The patient has miscarried and the child can't be saved. She needs a curettage operation. Are you her family member?" "No. The operation needs a family member's signature. Her family members are not in the capital. How can they sign it?" "Let me do it." Yen signed. Before entering the emergency room, Yen Bingqing suddenly woke up. She found out from Yen that she was indeed pregnant, but the child could not be kept and needed a curettage operation. She immediately grabbed his clothes tightly. Yen was stunned and asked unhappily, "What's wrong now, my dear lady?" "Call Yang Shouqing and tell him that I'm pregnant with his child." Yen Bingqing said word by word. Yen was shocked. His mind turned 1,000 times, but he quickly understood the meaning of her words and immediately called Yang Shouqing. Yang Shouqing was negotiating a business deal at a private club when he received Yen's call. He was shocked to learn that Yen Bingqing was pregnant and had an accidental miscarriage. When he learned that Yen Bingqing was pregnant with his child, old Master Yang was even more shocked and immediately rushed to the hospital. When Yang Shouqing was young, he was also a playboy who played with many female stars. Yen Bingqing was just one of the many mistresses he kept. However, Yang Shouqing was deeply attached to Yen Bingqing. He doted on her and used all the resources he had on her. The reason why Yen Bingqing was able to become Huan Yu's #1 sister was all because of him. Without Yang Shouqing, Yen Bingqing was nothing. The reason why Yang Shouqing liked Yen Bingqing so much was because of her beauty, which completely catered to his taste. Looking at the entertainment industry, there were very few who could compete with Yen Bingqing in terms of beauty. Not long after Yen Bingqing debuted, he had been her sugar daddy. In the end, he actually developed feelings for Yen Bingqing. Hence, Yang Shouqing did not hesitate to throw a lot of resources on her to make her famous. Now, when he learned that Yen Bingqing was pregnant with his child, Yang Shouqing was happy. He had no children in his life, only 2 daughters. After his first wife passed away, he did not remarry. When he learned that Yen Bingqing was pregnant with his child and had an accidental miscarriage, he lost his mind and rushed to the hospital immediately. Yen Bingqing had just finished a curettage operation and was pushed into the ward when Yang Shouqing rushed over. He learned from the doctor that Yen Bingqing was pregnant with a boy. Unfortunately, she could not save the child and had a miscarriage. Yang Shouqing was even more devastated. When Yen Bingqing woke up, she saw Yang Shouqing guarding her bed. Seeing that she was awake, he looked anxious. "Bingqing, are you feeling better?" "Brother Chung, I'm sorry. I couldn't save your child." Yen Bingqing burst into tears. Chapter 798. Yang Shouqing felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. "You just had an operation. Don't be so agitated. Don't cry." Seeing the pain and helplessness on his face, Yen Bingqing was even more certain that Yang Shouqing was the only person she could cling on to at this moment. Therefore, she immediately put on a pained expression and cried, "Brother Chung, I didn't know I was pregnant. If I knew I was pregnant with your child, I would have been very, very careful. But what should I do? The baby has been miscarried. Brother Chung, our child is gone." Sob, sob, sob. If it hadn't been miscarried, I would have thought of quitting the entertainment industry, giving birth to the child, and raising it well. I heard from the doctor that the child has already taken shape. It's a boy. Yan Bingqing was weeping so hard that her beautiful and haggard face was extremely pale. However, what she said tugged at his heartstrings. How could Yang Shouqing bear to see her in such a miserable state? He couldn't help but hug her and hold her in his arms. His rough hands kept stroking her back gently. When he heard that she was willing to give birth to the child, raise it, and even quit the entertainment industry for his sake, Yang Shouqing's heart was even more touched. He felt even more heartache for her. And Mo Yen, who was standing by the side, was expressionless. However, he snorted in his heart. Sometimes people were really strange things. Especially this Yan Bingqing. When she was filming, she was expressionless and had no acting skills to speak of. However, at this moment, she was acting quite well. She even said that she would quit the entertainment industry for the sake of giving birth to her child with Yang Shouqing. Was that possible? Yan Bingqing valued fame and fortune so much. If not for the fact that she was in dire straits now, she might have secretly aborted the child. Moreover, if she said that the child was Yang Shouqing's, was it really Yang Shouqing's? Only Yang Shouqing, who doted on and trusted Yan Bingqing unconditionally, would believe her. The reason why Yan Bingqing said these words now was nothing more than to cater to Yang Shouqing's fancy and place all her last hopes on him. However, only Yan Bingqing could do such a thing and play such a trick. Yang Shouqing really fell for it. He asked with concern, "I've been in Hong Kong for the past few days and only returned to the mainland a few days ago. I heard that you offended the higher-ups of Huanyu and were banned. I couldn't find you. What happened?" "Brother Chung, I feel so bitter in my heart." Yan Bingqing broke down and cried. When Yang Shouqing saw her crying miserably, he hurriedly asked a few questions. Only then did Yan Bingqing tell him the truth. She told him the whole story from beginning to end. It was said that when she was filming, there was a scene where she wasn't in the right state of mind and couldn't get into character. That scene was red-hot a few times, and she slapped a newbie actor more than 10 times. There were a few times when she didn't control her strength and slapped too hard. In the end, she did not expect that the newbie was backed by the crown prince of Disheng, Muyaja. After offending Muyaja, he was blacklisted. But it's fine if he blacklisted me. I'm already so down and out. But this Yun Shirshir won't let me off at all. She actually asked someone to come to my door and slap me back 16 times. Chapter 799. When Yang Shouqing heard this, he felt as if a knife had been twisted in his heart. His hands trembled as he pulled her into his embrace. "Bingqing, it's been hard on you." Mo Yen glanced at her expressionlessly from the corner of his eyes. Her acting skills were top-notch. In fact, Yu was very clear about her debts of gratitude and grudges in this matter. She left after giving 16 slaps, not one more, not one less. At that time, Yan Bingqing did not even know that she was pregnant, so there was no such thing as punching and kicking. Yan Bingqing had always been good at stirring up trouble. On this point, Mo Yen was very impressed. "Brother Chung, what should I do? Now that I'm in this state because of that woman, is my life completely ruined?" Yan Bingqing cried as she said, "That woman is really ruthless. Even if I've done something wrong, she doesn't have to be so ruthless, right? To ban me to this state, what What kind of mistake have I made? I've already sincerely apologized, but she forced me to this point, not to mention the entertainment industry. I can't even survive in the mainland. My life is over. It's over. This Muyaja is too ruthless. Yang Shouqing nodded, his face sullen. However, this was the tricky part. In the huge capital, Yang Shouqing was not afraid of anything, but he did not dare to offend the Mu and Gu families. One was Mu Yaja, and the other was Gu Jinglian. Both of them were ruthless characters. They were young, but frivolous, young, but ruthless. Each of them was more ruthless than the other, especially Mu Yaja, who was even more ruthless than Gu Jinglian. At least in the mainland market, Yang Shouqing had no right to speak in front of Mu Yaja. If not for Mu Yaja, this matter would have been easily settled if he had stepped in. In the capital, especially in the entertainment industry, Mu Yaja had the final say in everything. Yan Bingqing offended him and was undoubtedly seeking his own death. Seeing the complicated expression on Yang Shouqing's face, Yan Bingqing felt even more uneasy. She probed, "Big Brother Cheng, what should I do? In my current state, no one is willing to offend Mu Yaja. For me, what kind of character was he? I used to think that he was a powerful figure, but I never thought that he could manipulate the entertainment industry with just a few words. Who exactly is he?" Yan Bingqing had rarely heard about Mu Yaja in the industry. She only knew that he was the most important person in Disheng Financial Group. Therefore, as the controlling shareholder of Huanyu Entertainment, one word from him could turn the entertainment industry upside down. Yang Shouqing looked a little troubled. "Bingqing, it's not that I don't want to stand up for you. It's just as you said, this Mu Yaja is a powerful figure. I don't dare to offend him." Hearing what he said, Yan Bingqing's heart thumped. Then her face turned ashen, and she fell into endless despair. If even Yang Shouqing did not dare to offend him, he must be really powerful. "Big Brother Cheng, if even you say that, I'm really done for." Chapter 800. "Brother Yang, all my overseas movie contracts have been canceled," Yan Bingqing said sadly. Yang Shouqing was slightly surprised. "What happened?" "This matter has spread overseas. I heard that several international brands have good relations with Huanyu. The few movies that I signed contracts with before were all resources that Huanyu had fought for. Although they were only supporting roles, they could be plated with a layer of gold in Hollywood and solidify my position. But after this incident, those movie contracts have been canceled." "Is that so?" Yang Shouqing muttered to himself for a while and said slowly, "Those are Huanyu's resources. You've offended Huanyu, so those movies are canceled. I still have some resources that I can fight for you. There's a movie that's going to start shooting in Hollywood next year. I'll help you contact people and arrange for it." "Really?" Yan Bingqing was wild with joy, as if she had seen a ray of hope in a hopeless situation. "When have I ever lied to you?" Yang Shouqing comforted her and patted the back of her hand. "Now that things have come to this, whether you want to film or not is another matter. Right now, the most important thing is to recover your body." Yan Bingqing nodded heavily. Yang Shouqing thought for a moment and said, "How about this? I'll arrange for you to go to Hong Kong to lie low for a while and recover your body first. If there's anything else, wait until you're better." "Okay, Brother Yang, I'll listen to you." Yan Bingqing looked wronged as she nestled in his arms like a little bird. Yang Shouqing patted her back, that was trembling because of her sobbing, and suddenly asked curiously, "So, this matter is all because of that newcomer?" "Yeah. Who's that newcomer?" "She's quite famous." Yang Shouqing asked. Yan Bingqing's face immediately raised with a sinister expression. She gritted her teeth and said, "That woman's name is Yun Shirshir. I feel like she has quite a background." "Yun Shirshir?" Yang Shoucheng came to a sudden realization. Who exactly was this woman? His old face suddenly twitched. He looked down at his 3 severed fingers and recalled Gu Xing's cold words. I'm warning you, don't even think about touching Yun Shirshir. Yun Shirshir, that woman, the woman who caused him to lose 3 of his fingers. This Yun Shirshir had quite the background. However, women in the entertainment industry would only gain power for a short while. Wait until she falls. See how he's going to kill her. Yang Shoucheng thought angrily and said to Yan Bingqing, Enough! I know. Don't worry. I won't let this woman off so easily. I'll definitely get justice for you. When Yan Bingqing heard this, she was overjoyed and cried out in surprise. Brother Cheng, you really love me. I love you. Yan Bingqing kissed his lips. Yang Shoucheng hugged the back of her neck tightly and deepened the kiss. Mo, Yan sensibly retreated and shook his head at the same time. When Yun Shirshir returned to the set, she found that Yan Bingqing was missing. She was confused and really thought that Mu Yaja had kicked Yan Bingqing out of the production team. She also rushed to the set. When she saw her, she immediately leaned in front of her and scrutinized her face with her bright eyes. Yun Shirshir was baffled by her actions and asked, Why do you keep staring at me? It's fine, it's fine. The wound on your face has healed. Chapter 801. Yun Shirshir was perplexed. What did Qinzhou scold you about? It's my fault for not taking good care of you and letting you suffer in the production team. She blamed herself. It's all in the past. Besides, why should I blame you? This matter has nothing to do with you. She was moved to tears. Shirshir, you're so nice. You're always so considerate of me. Yun Shirshir patted her head. All right. Aren't I all better now? Yes, yes. She quickly nodded and wiped away her tears. That Yan Bingqing deserves to be blacklisted. She bullied you. She got what she deserved. Blacklisted. Yun Shirshir was stunned. Yes, Yan Bingqing has been blacklisted. The production team has removed her name from the cast. Her assistant looked at her strangely. You don't know about this? Yun Shirshir shook her head blankly. I don't know. She's been blacklisted? Yes. Huan Yu's higher-ups gave the order and created a lot of articles to slander her online. Not only did the production team kick her out, but they also terminated all her endorsements and movie contracts. Her reputation is so bad that it's even overseas. Anyway, she has no chance to make a comeback. Sure, isn't this considered as a blessing in disguise? After she was removed from the production team, the director was so happy that he didn't give her any attitude these past few days. Yun Shirshir frowned slightly. I'm not in the country these past few days, so I don't know about this. Her assistant asked, That's right. Where have you been these past few days? We lost contact for a few days, and Mr. Qinzhou kept talking about you. Oh, I went on vacation to recuperate. Sigh, what a pity. You missed the biggest show of the year. You didn't see how Yan Bingqing was torn apart those few nights. She's so pitiful. Even I pity her. Still, a pitiful person must have something hateful about her. She deserves it. Her assistant said indignantly, I still think that it's not thorough enough. You should let her apologize to you in public. Only then can you vent your anger. Hearing what she said, Yun Shirshir suddenly realized that she seemed to have been tricked by Mu Yaja. Banning Yan Bingqing? Needless to say, this was definitely Mu Yaja's doing. He was the only one who could turn the entertainment industry upside down. Did he ban Yan Bingqing a long time ago? That day, she had been kept in the dark from the beginning to the end. She had even begged him to remove Yan Bingqing from the list. He even shamelessly offered such a condition. She actually fell for it. Damn it! How could this Mu Yaja be so black-bellied? Yun Shirshir blushed Then, Yen Bingqing has been removed from the cast. Who will play her role? Mushi opened her mouth and was about to answer when a voice sounded behind her. Yun Shirshir. Yun Shirshir. She turned around and saw a beautifully dressed woman with exquisite makeup slowly walking toward her. She was a little surprised. While she was in a daze, the woman was already in front of her. With a smile, she extended her hand to her. Hello, I'm Lu Jingtian. You can call me Jingtian. Lu Jingtian? This face seems a little familiar. However, she really could not remember where she had seen it before. Yun Shirshir shook her outstretched hand. Hello, I'm Jingtian. I've just joined the cast to play Lin Hina. I'll be in your care in the future. Lu Jingtian smiled sweetly with a friendly look in her eyes. Mushi suddenly stood at the side, not daring to speak. Chapter 802. Hee hee, you're really interesting. Lu Jingtian chuckled, but then she suddenly blurted out something that made no sense. With that, she turned around and left. Yun Shirshir was even more confused. What a weirdo! Mushi, this Lu Jingtian's words are quite strange. She gave off a feeling of superiority and arrogance. She was like a rich missy from the upper class, yet she pretended to be calm, which made it seem very deliberate. Mushi's expression changed, and she hurriedly pulled her to the side. Sure, don't spout nonsense. This Lu Jingtian's background is not to be trifled with. I feel that the actors in the production team, even if they're just supporting roles, are not to be trifled with, Yun Shirshir quietly said. Mushi's lips twitched as she silently retorted. Yes, you're the one with the biggest background. Anyway, everyone's background is not to be trifled with. Mushi continued. This Lu Jingtian's father is a senior executive of Huanyu and the biggest shareholder on the board of directors. So impressive. Yun Shirshir furrowed her brows. I feel that she looks quite familiar, as if I've seen her somewhere before, but I can't recall where. How can that be? Although she's signed under Huanyu, she hasn't officially debuted yet. She has indeed acted in a few movies, but they're all supporting roles. Moreover, the movies haven't been released yet. Mushi said. Yun Shirshir asked, That's strange. Why are they all supporting roles? Isn't her father a senior executive of Huanyu? Isn't it easy for him to invest in a movie to promote his daughter? Mushi rolled her eyes. Even if she's his biological daughter, he can't be so reckless. Nowadays, investing in a movie can easily cost hundreds of millions. Her father does have the ability to set up an acting troupe for her, but the box office will definitely flop. If the box office flops, hundreds of millions of investment will go down the drain. Who would be willing to take the risk? It's fine if the box office flops, but what if the movie's reputation flops as well? Can you hear the sound of money being thrown into the water? If you throw it at her, it'll be a one-way trip. Yun Shirshir nodded. So, Huanyu's strategy for her is to let her act in some supporting roles to gain some popularity. Then, when the movie is released, we can use the team to hype it up and package it. Then, her fame will come. Hype. What do you think? Creating hype was a shortcut to fame. Before you even debuted, Huanyu was already hyping you up. Even now, the official Weibo account of the Green Apple is also hyping you up. Your fans on Weibo have almost exceeded 10 million. This is the effect of hype. Mushi was about to vomit blood. This Yun Shirshir was simply the best artiste she had ever managed. Other artistes only cared about how to increase their fame, but she only cared about how to act. Well, one had to know that she was now in a gold medal production team. Everything was in her favor. It could be said that it was the best time to create hype. Her reputation online couldn't be any better. Many people were very supportive of her role as Yin Xiaochuan and were willing to support her. What's more, everyone in the crew was a topic of conversation. Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian, and Gu Xingze, which one of them wasn't the hottest idol in the world? Even if she uploaded a selfie with Gu Xingze on Weibo, it would still be a hot topic and gain popularity. However, this Yun Shirshir, let alone creating hype, only updated her Weibo once every few days, and it had nothing to do with filming. Chapter 803. It was no wonder that Yan Bingqing hated her. She did not know how to make use of the resources she had. How are we going to hype her up? Yun Shirshir was curious about how Huan Yu was going to promote her. I heard that Huan Yu wanted to use Gu Xingze's fame to hype her up, but Gu Xingze didn't agree to it. Why didn't he agree to it? Gu Xingze's fame was at its peak. As long as he used Lu Jingtian to gain some popularity, she would become famous. Do you think everyone is like you? Back then, Huan Yu used Gu Xingze to hype you up, and Gu Xingze was actually willing to cooperate. Xingze is really strange. He's willing to use his fame to promote you, but not Lu Jingtian. I don't understand him. Her assistant had a strange look on her face. Yun Shirshir was stunned. When she had just debuted, Huan Yu had used Gu Xingze's popularity to promote her. The outside world had speculated that she and Gu Xingze had a close relationship, and they were even rumored to be lovers. Hence, at the movie's opening ceremony, the reporter's series of questions about this issue caught her off guard. Xingze has never liked being hyped up. Shirshir, you may be the only exception. In order to promote Lu Jingtian, Huan Yu threatened and enticed him. They even offered him 1% of their shares, but he didn't agree. It's said that Huan Yu had originally planned a script to promote Lu Jingtian as Gu Xingze's rumored girlfriend, but Gu Xingze refused and didn't give them any leeway. Her assistant continued. At Huan Yu's annual gala, Huan Yu had originally arranged a female companion for Xingze, and that was Lu Jingtian. In the end, Gu Xingze invited you to be his female companion. Only Gu Xingze would dare to do so. Huan Yu didn't dare to do anything to him. After all, Xingze is now one of Huan Yu's shareholders. With his status, Huan Yu wouldn't dare to act rashly if he didn't agree. Yun Shirshir was stunned. At that gala, Xingze's female companion was originally Lu Jingtian. Yes, Xingze had initially agreed to it, but he ended up inviting her instead. Lu Jingtian was almost angered to death when he suddenly kicked her out. In a hurry, she had no choice but to rush to the gala alone. The topic is gone, and so is the buzz. That day, you were in the limelight as Gu Xingze's female companion. Don't be fooled by her courteous attitude toward you earlier. Who knows if she hates you deep down? Thank you for reminding me. Yun Shirshir was halfway through her words when she suddenly realized something. It suddenly dawned on her why she found the other woman so familiar when she saw her earlier. At the mention of the gala, she recalled that Lu Jingtian was the woman who had tried to trip her up at the gala. He did not recognize her because her makeup was different from the day of the gala. On the day of the banquet, she was dressed extravagantly and wore heavy makeup. Today's makeup was more plain, so he couldn't recognize her immediately. Yun Shirshir silently complained in her heart. This level of makeup was not much different from plastic surgery. It was no wonder she couldn't recognize her. It was as if she had changed her face. Makeup was indeed one of the sorcery. It could change a woman's appearance completely. Looking at Lu Jingtian now, she was no longer as stunning as she had been at the gala. Her facial features were neither beautiful nor exquisite, and neither did they stand out. She wondered what she looked like without her makeup. Yun Shirshir carefully thought about it. It was no wonder that Lu Jingtian looked at her as if she had seen her enemy that day. It turned out that she had snatched her resources. Chapter 804. Thinking back on the smile that Lu Jingtian had given her earlier, she felt that it was really hypocritical. I haven't been in the industry for long, yet I've already made a lot of enemies. Am I that unpopular? Yun Shirshir asked self-deprecatingly. Her assistant smiled. Shirshir, you have to adjust your mentality. Having a lot of enemies only means that you're popular. People are jealous of you, so they target you. If you're unknown and not famous, who will take you seriously? Those who see you as a thorn in their flesh are all jealous of your resources. You can be considered a clear stream in the industry. Yun Shirshir was stunned. This industry is really complicated. It is, her assistant said. How many true friends do you think there are in this industry? The industry is so big, and there are only so many resources. Many of them are sneaky people who are fighting for fame and fortune. You must be more careful in the future. Even if you have a strong background, sometimes you'll be in trouble if those people catch a little pain and use public opinion to attack you. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. You must maintain your image in front of your fans. Her assistant's advice was very pertinent. Yun Shirshir heard it in her heart and smiled. Thank you, Mushi. Sigh, Shirshir, you really don't know how lucky you are. If you don't have Huan Yu supporting you, how can a newbie like you win against Yan Bingqing? Yun Shirshir said sincerely, to be honest, I don't have much ambition. Acting is just a hobby of mine. I've never thought of fighting for fame and fortune. It's just because I like it. I just see acting as an ordinary job and a way of life. Isn't it a little inconsiderate of you to meet someone like me who has no ambition? It's quite inconsiderate, her assistant said truthfully, hitting her sore spot. Yun Shirshir's lips twitched. Do you have to be so blunt? Her assistant smiled. To be honest, if these words came out of someone else's mouth, it would sound very pretentious and pompous. Which person who entered this industry did not come for fame and fortune? Even if it was by accident at the beginning, after entering this circle and being influenced by others, it was difficult for him to maintain his original heart. However, when it came from Yun Shirshir's mouth, it sounded very pure. If many artists had such unique resources like hers, they would have used all means to create hype. But Yun Shirshir really treated acting as a job. But this circle is not an ordinary one. You have to be careful. Over the next few days, after Lu Jingtian joined the production team, her main task was to catch up on Yan Bingqing's scenes. Previously, Yan Bingqing acted as Lin Hana's character. After that incident, Yan Bingqing was banned and removed from the cast. Those scenes had to be res hot. There were many scenes where Yun Shirshir and Lin Hana had to be filmed together. Lin Fengtian kept the close-up shots of Yun Shirshir, but the other scenes had to be res hot. It had only been a few days since Lu Jingtian joined the production team. In the past, the production team had always been careful around this young Missy, who was born in Huan Yu's top management. Lu Jingtian was famous for her temper, which was not much better than Yan Bingqing's. In the past, when she was filming in another production team, she would often vent her anger on the production team whenever she had a disagreement. Her temper was notoriously bad. Chapter 805. From the start to the end, the gentle and friendly side she displayed in front of the production team took everyone by surprise. What was also surprising was that she did not find trouble with Yun Shirshir and got along well with everyone in the production team. When it came to the basement scene, Lu Jingtian did not make things difficult for Yun Shirshir like Yan Bingqing did. Instead, she did her homework in advance. Her gaze, positioning, lines, and expressions were all done in one go. For the slap scene, she used Meng Qiqi's technique and did not insist on using real weapons like Yan Bingqing did. Hence, she passed the scene with just 3 NGs. The result was very good, and Lin Fengtian was very satisfied. Mushi was shocked. It was said that a dog could not change its habit of eating feces. Lu Jingtian's personality had changed drastically. She was no longer as arrogant and unreasonable as before. It was as if she had become a completely different person. Mushi was taken aback and found it hard to believe. However, Yun Shishir was naturally happy to be able to get along with her peacefully. Ever since Yan Bingqing's incident, those in the production team who had offended Yun Shishir in the past had sincerely apologized to her. This included Yang Mi, who had changed her attitude toward her and was intentionally or unintentionally close to her. After getting along with her, Yun Shishir felt that Yang Mi was a decent person. Although she was a little shrewd and scheming, she was not like Yan Bingqing, who had so many thorns that it hurt. Yang Mi had debuted for almost 10 years. She had acted in a drama when she was young and officially entered the entertainment industry at the age of 17. In terms of qualifications, she was also a senior. Yun Shishir had always been humble toward her. Yang Mi had also completely changed her opinion of her. Initially, she was a little annoyed with Yun Shishir, thinking that this newbie must have used dirty means to obtain so many resources when she had just debuted. However, after getting along with her, she admired Yun Shishir's true nature and turned her enemy into a friend. Sometimes, she would even upload selfies with Yun Shishir on Weibo. Yun Shishir also learned how to use Weibo and often interacted with the other actors in the production team. However, the only thing that troubled Yun Shishir was Gu Xingza's indifference towards her. One day, the weather was hot, so she specially bought water to distribute to the crew. Gu Xingza had just finished filming and was about to enter the waiting room. Yun Shishir saw him and handed him a bottle of water. However, Gu Xingza acted as if she was invisible and brushed past her without even looking at her. While Yun Shishir was still in a daze, he walked into the lounge and closed the door, leaving her outside. What had happened to make him so estranged from her? Could it be because of what happened that day? Yun Shishir inevitably felt down. In her heart, Gu Xingza was undoubtedly a senior worthy of respect. He had helped her a lot, but now he was like a stranger to her. She could not help but feel disappointed. Mushi saw it all, too. She, too, could not understand how the superstar and Yun Shishir seemed to have been separated by a vast expanse of wilderness overnight. They were like strangers, no different from strangers. They used to be very close. She still remembered that Gu Xingza was even willing to arrange Qinzhou, his trump card, for Yun Shishir's sake. Back then, Qinzhou became Yun Shishir's manager because Gu Xingza added fuel to the fire. Why was their relationship so strained now? What in the world had happened? Mushi was worried, but she did not dare to ask. Chapter 806. Yun Shishir had a feeling that Gu Xingza was avoiding her on purpose, but she could not figure out what Gu Xingza was thinking. After all, they were on the same set, and they would see each other often. His cold attitude towards her undoubtedly made her feel uneasy. It was probably because she was bothering him. Yun Shishir thought for a while and smiled mockingly. She had no choice but to turn around and leave. In the waiting room, Gu Xingza leaned against the door and listened to Yun Shishir's footsteps as she walked away slowly. A trace of pain and loneliness appeared on his originally cold face. He did not want to deliberately give her the cold shoulder. It was because he knew that if he did not control his feelings for her, once he lost control, it would be out of control. It was not that he was a coward and did not dare to fight for her, but that he might not even have the right to fight for her. The person in Yun Shishir's heart was not him, was it? Then, his love would only become a burden and hurt her. Maintaining distance and estrangement was The only way. This was the first time in his life that he had feelings for a woman, but it was probably going to end in vain. He slowly sat down on the sofa and let his body sink into it. He casually picked up a bottle of mineral water, opened it, and took a few sips. Suddenly, he was upset and raised his hand to throw the bottle of mineral water at the makeup mirror. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared on the huge mirror. The table was in a mess. When the assistant Ruo Bing walked in, the whole waiting room was in a mess. All the makeup tools were scattered on the floor, and the mineral water bottle was lying on the table. Water kept dripping onto the floor. She was shocked and looked around. Soon, she saw a person huddled up in the corner. Gu Xingze was rubbing his hair, and his face was buried in the shadows. His hair covered his forehead, and his expression could not be seen clearly. However, he looked lifeless. Ruo Bing was shocked. She had never seen Gu Xingze show such a weak and helpless expression on his face. It was as if he was an orphan abandoned by the whole world. She walked over and carefully put her hand on his shoulder. Gu Xingze did not move. He just sat quietly in the corner and did not move at all. Even the rise and fall of his breath was so weak. Xingze, what's wrong? Ruo Bing asked softly with a concerned expression. Gu Xingze did not speak and only turned his body slightly. Ruo Bing's hand fell from his shoulder. She looked up at the room and the messy dressing table and shook her head slightly. She said softly, Xingze, I'll clean this place up first. Well, if there's anything you're unhappy about, you can tell me. Gu Xingze remained silent and did not say a word. Ruo Bing began to clean up. She cleaned the water stains on the floor and tidied up the bottles on the dressing table. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a cigarette lighter behind her. Her face froze for a moment. She turned around and saw that he had lit a cigarette. She was shocked. When did he start? He did not have the habit of smoking in the past. After recovering from her shock, Ruo Bing quickly walked over and took the cigarette between his fingers. She stepped on it and put it out on the ground. Gu Xingze raised his head slightly. His eyes were covered by his fringe and revealed a cold gaze. Ruo Bing was slightly shocked by him, but she still mustered up her courage and asked, Xingze, why did you suddenly start smoking? Chapter 807. You can't smoke anymore. You still have to record an album tomorrow and record a demo for the movie theme song. Your throat will be damaged if you continue like this. Gu Xingze glanced at her coldly, but quietly took out another cigarette from the cigarette box, lit it again, and took a deep puff. The flickering sparks were weak, but they lit up his cold eyes. Ruo Bing could not do anything to him. She squatted down and said patiently, Xingze, is there something bothering you? You can talk to me. There's no need to make things difficult for your body. Gu Xingze remained silent, ignoring her as if she were air. Ruo Bing looked embarrassed, but she could not do anything to him. She had been by Gu Xingze's side for a few years. She knew very little about Gu Xingze. She only knew that he was an extremely sentimental person. Other celebrities changed their assistants again and again, but he never changed. From the beginning to the end, it was still the two assistants who had been by his side since his debut. He would keep the things he loved by his side, no matter how old they were. He was the nation's top idol, a superstar of his generation, and an insulator against gossip. So many female celebrities flocked to him, but he was all alone from the beginning to the end. Other than that, she did not know anything else about him. Perhaps no one had ever been able to enter his heart. When Gu Xingze was studying abroad at the age of 15, he was spotted by a talent scout and was recommended to Huanyu. He officially signed a contract, starred in his first movie, and released his first album. He was famous. Until then, his career had been smooth sailing. But on the surface, aside from the limelight, Gu Xingze only gave people a feeling. Lonely, lonely. Yes, lonely. Other than Qinzhou, there was probably no one who could really get close to him. It probably had something to do with his childhood. It was said that he was the illegitimate son of the Gu family in the capital. When he was young, his mother died early. At a very young age, he was exiled by the Gu family to a foreign country and lived alone until he met Qinzhou at the age of 15. In Ruo Bing's eyes, he had always been cold, like a high and mighty prince who was difficult to get close to. However, this was also the first time she had seen him lose control like this. For a moment, she couldn't do anything to him. Xingze, you still have a scene in the afternoon. Are you okay in this state? No. He finally opened his mouth. Ruo Bing finally calmed down. That's great. Adjust your condition and rest early. With a cigarette in his mouth, he lowered his gaze. Right now, acting was the best way for him to vent his emotions. Sometimes, he really wished that time would stop. She lived her entire life in the drama. At least in the movie, he could hold her hand, hug her, and kiss her. However, he had revealed his true feelings and was too immersed in the role. She was really just acting. There were 2 scenes in the afternoon. One was a scene between Lu Jingtian and Jun Mo. The other scene was between Gu Xingze and Yun Shirshir. These 2 scenes were very important in the book. Jun Mo did not appear much in this movie, but every time she appeared, there was an important plot. She had just stepped into the film industry and was not good at acting, so she put in a lot of effort into the script. She also often looked for Yun Shirshir to practice with her lines. She worked very hard to memorize the lines of a scene several times. Chapter 808. After Yin Xiaochuan returned to the country, she had another emotional entanglement with Yin Dongyu. Because Yin Xiaochuan was hospitalized for pneumonia, Yin Dongyu was absent from his engagement with Lin Hina. Lin Hina flew into a rage out of humiliation and went to the hospital where Yin Xiaochuan was. She wanted to denounce Yin Xiaochuan, but she met Su Qi, who was blocking the door of the ward. The 2 had an argument. It was also a tear-jerking scene in the movie. Lin Hina angrily questioned Su Qi, "Are you just going to watch the woman you love throw herself into someone else's arms? Do you really love her? From what I see, your so-called love is nothing more than lip service. Are you really willing, giving away the woman you love so much to someone else?" Su Qi calmly said, "I love her, so I'll give her the greatest freedom." For this scene, Jun Mo had specially rehearsed it with Yun Shirshir many times. As a result, Yun Shirshir almost memorized the script by heart. She had put in a lot of effort, so when it came time to act, Jun Mo's performance was very good. She was full of emotions. Her lines were affectionate, and every expression on her face was well managed. Especially at close range, the tension in Jun Mo's eyes gave people goosebumps. On the other hand, Lu Jingtian was in the right state, but her expression paled in comparison to Jun Mo's. Especially that line, "Su Qi, you're such a coward for pushing the woman you love to someone else." She laughed several times. Lin Fengtian's face was about to turn green with anger as he scolded her. Lu Jingtian was almost in tears from the scolding. She ran back to the lounge with reddened eyes and finally adjusted her state of mind. However, when it came time to act, her emotions were still not in place. She had NGs again and again. Lin Fengtian was so angry that he scolded her again. She really wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Lin Fengtian was so angry that he pointed at her and scolded her in front of everyone. "Lu Jingtian, I really can't be bothered to scold you. D****, what kind of bullsh***T? Are you acting? Do you think you're acting very well? Why don't you take a look at what you're acting as? Also, go back and look in the mirror and see what makeup you're wearing. It's so thick. Are you acting as a delinquent? Don't look at the script when you go back. Take a look at the self-cultivation of an actor. You want to be famous? Bah, wishful thinking. It would be faster to go back and buy a pillow to dream. Do you think you can become famous just because you look better in Korea? Your acting skills are so bad. Do you believe that I'll cut you into a passerby? Lin Fengtian was the infamous demon Scissorhands. When everyone present heard Lin Fengtian scolding Lu Jingtian, they wanted to laugh but did not dare to do so, so they could only hold it in. Especially Junemo. She was about to suffer internal injuries from holding it in. Uffed. Yun Shirshir, however, could not help bursting into laughter. Mu Shi immediately held back her laughter and tugged at the corner of her shirt. Stop laughing. Shirshir. Sure enough, Lu Jingtian, who was already feeling aggrieved after being scolded by Lin Fengtian, shot Yun Shirshir a sinister look. Lin Fengtian scolded her furiously when he saw her getting distracted. Where are you looking at? You're not serious about acting, and you're distracted even after being scolded? Lu Jingtian shuddered at the scolding. She wanted to cry, but she wanted to save face, so she forced herself not to cry. This Lin Fengtian was too ruthless in his insults. Her father was one of Huan Yu's higher-ups. Wasn't he afraid that she would go back and complain?